We're just waiting on Councilmember Dodge to come back in. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and make an announcement for those of us in the audience requiring some translation services. Este es un anuncio para los que nos acompañan hoy esta noche que necesitan ayuda con traducción. Los aparatos están ahí disponibles junto a la caseta de interpretación. Y para usar los aparatos de traducción en español, obtenga un aparato de la mesa junto a la caseta de interpretación. Préndalo y use el canal 0. Cuélgueselo en el cuello con el frente hacia afuera. Si no puede oír, revise que el aparato esté encendido y sin obstrucciones. Solo funciona dentro de la Cámara del Concilio. Y regréselo antes de partir. And welcome everybody to our afternoon session of our October 28th meeting, and we will get started shortly. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and get started, and we'll start with our Pledge of Allegiance. So if everyone could please stand and join me in that. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and Okay, and we'll have our city clerk call roll this evening.
Villasich, Kaufman Gomez,
Present.
Dodge, here. Hernandez, Hurst,
Here.
Montesino, Cervantes.
Here. So we do have a quorum present. We are going to get started with oral communications from members of the public. So this is a time set aside for members of the general public to address the council on any item that is not on our agenda, and you could just come up to the podium, state your name for the record, and also the district or city where you reside.
Hi, my name's Marilyn Garrett. I'm a retired teacher from Pajaro Schools. Hi, Rhea. She was the union president for years, a good one, when I taught. And I come here because I can't keep things to myself when I know that something's dangerous, and I feel like I have to inform others with the hope that they'll look at the evidence and act accordingly. So today, again, I have a public health warning card, and it states that all wireless devices emit microwave radiation, a known biological hazard. Every time you use a wireless device, you're exposed to microwave radiation. The World Health Organization labels this radiation a Class 2B possible cancer-causing agent in the same category as lead, DDT, and chloroform. Cell phones, cordless phones, tablets, laptops, smart meters. The more you are around these devices, the more radiation you get. It's harmful to you, causes DNA damage, short and long-term memory loss, damage to fetuses, sleep problems, memory, and behavior problems, heart problems, and many others. These are very familiar symptoms to most people. In the last month, I purchased an Acousticom detector of microwave radiation. So it has a color showing green to yellow to red as you get more exposure to the radiation from the Wi-Fi and other sources in here. Also has a sound component. where you can hear these frequencies. And one article I read said we're being hit by about 300,000 frequencies per minute. This is in an article called The Damaging Effects of Our High-Tech World by Phyllis Light. It's from the Open Exchange magazine of April 2013. And each time there are cell towers to make these cell phones work, they're emitting radiation causing damage the closer you are in proximity. And this is documented in 8 countries. Increased cancer incidence, people experiencing fatigue, sleep disturbances, cardiovascular problems, and the list goes on. Now, you may ignore this, but facts don't cease to exist because they're ignored. We're in trouble here, and our children are being damaged. Also, I think it was Wall Street Journal, October 2nd, had an article about violations of FCC radiation levels in 1 out of 10 cell sites, something the cities should check. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's halt this microwave proliferation.
Good evening, Mayor Cervantes and Watsonville City Council members. My name is Kimberly Firm, and I'm here on behalf of Project Homeless Connect. It's an event that's going to occur in Watsonville for the first time ever on November 5th. And I want to say thank you very much to the city for your partnership in helping to make this first-time event happen. It's intended for families, individuals who are homeless, where they can get a multitude of services all under one roof. And it's occurred in Santa Cruz for the last 5 years. And the Project Homeless Connect Committee worked very hard to partner with the city in order to make that happen. So several city staff members have been helpful, including Tony Roman and several others. Thank you for that. And we're hoping that anyone who knows someone who does not have a permanent home, who may be in an unsafe or unfit living situation, please come to the Veterans Hall on November 5th between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. There'll be a multitude of services available. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. My name is Margarita Carrillo, and I rise as trustee of Cabrillo College representing the Watsonville area. I wanted to take this opportunity to remind everyone in chambers that this October 30th from 12 to 1 at the Watsonville Center, Cabrillo will be hosting a grab-and-go lunch where people can stop by and learn about opportunities that abound at Cabrillo College and particularly at the Watsonville Center and beyond. And remember that education does open doors. So please stop by and learn about all the opportunities, and the Pajaro Valley Chamber of Commerce will be there to answer questions as well.
Thanks.
Hello, my name is Joanne Sanchez. I would have written you all, but last time I wrote, nobody responded, so here I am in person. And basically just wanted to tell you that what you did at the last vote, you need to take responsibility for that. It wasn't a land use ordinance. You voted for McDonald's, and you need to take responsibility for that. So today I ask you to start being proactive and figure out ways to combat the obesity rates that are going to go up and the diabetes rates that are going to go up, and figure out how to help the local businesses that are going to suffer, because this is what you've chosen. This is what you guys did. So it's time to take responsibility for that and move forward truly. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Domingo Martinez, and I'm here to tell you that my parents feed me healthy foods and talk to me about making good choices for my body. So when I see a McDonald's commercial, I really want some fries and a soda. But last night, I found an article on the iPad that said McDonald's spent $988 million last year for advertising. They spent $2.7 million per day to try to get their kids like me to eat food from their dollar menu. So thank you, city council members, for helping McDonald's get rich by making us sick.
my name is Frank Martinez, and I'm worried about the small businesses in downtown because on Fridays I see kids from Watsonville eat at their restaurants and they are going to go to McDonald's instead. You guys need to think of ways to help El Frijolito and Nacho Mamas and the Chinese restaurant because the kids aren't gonna eat there anymore. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments.
Good evening. My name is Jacob Martinez, and that's all my family. We have a lot of concerns, not only our family, but a lot of people in our community. We really feel that the vote you guys made last week, it was on McDonald's. You guys want to say it was a land use issue, but it was very clear that pretty much that whole night, there was a slide up there that said, "Thank you, Watsonville," and there's a big picture of McDonald's. So I think it was very clear what your vote was for. And we're just really concerned, the community is really concerned about the vision you guys have for Watsonville and what the vision the community has for Watsonville. And we are actually moving forward with our vision of Watsonville. And we're starting to organize people that have that similar vision. And we're just really disappointed in everybody who made that vote the last city council meeting. The community was really upset about that. And if you look around the room, the community is still here. All those suits aren't. They're gone. They're back in Santa Cruz. They're back over the hill. They're back down in Monterey. They're not here invested in Watsonville. We are. And we're here, and we're going to stay here, and we're moving this community forward. And, you know, if you guys want to join us, but we're moving forward with or without all of you. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Consuelo Alba. I live in District 5. I have been in this community for 16 years now, and I try to participate as much as possible. I am involved in many different community groups, and more specifically, I'm the director of the Watsonville Film Festival. Many of the people in our community are working really hard to make this a better community for everyone, and we are also trying to change the narrative of what's going on here in Watsonville. So making decisions like the one that, the vote that happened here last time is not really helping to move Watsonville forward. It's more of the same. It's more of this narrative that nobody wants to invest in this community. We are broke. We don't have options. We just have to accept the first thing that comes our way, and we disagree strongly with that. I am very disappointed, like many people in this community, about that vote, because it was specifically for a fast food restaurant that is well known and very well documented that is harmful for the communities, especially for poor communities like ours. We are a target. That's the only market that is growing for these type of restaurants. So that's what I wanted to say. Very disappointed about the vote. And also, I'm concerned about how you engage the community. As I mentioned, I participate in many occasions, and I was part of the conversation when this plan to change downtown happened. This idea of making Main Street more pedestrian friendly, many of us were there. We really liked the idea of narrowing Main Street to make it more pedestrian friendly. We talk about trees, we talk about all these wonderful things that we want to see. And there were consultants here talking about this project, and they never ever mentioned, the city never mentioned that the McDonald's was coming to downtown. So that doesn't seem transparent to me, and that's clear in the vote was in clear contradiction to that proposal that we were talking about slowing down downtown so people can enjoy it. So a 24-hour drive-through doesn't really fit that picture. So I don't understand how we can have both visions how they can work, I still don't understand. I don't think there are clear plans about the impact of a 24-hour drive-through in Watsonville. And I'm sorry, I'm very emotional about this because I care about my community. I care about this community. And the last thing I want to say is that I don't believe we need big stores coming to rescue us. I think that it's time for us to work on a local community based on local businesses, based on who we are as a community and who lives here for real. There are many, many models out there, very successful, and I have a list, I'm going to email it to you, about the benefits of promoting a local economy, and just a couple of them is in an increasingly global world, communities.
Consuelo, we'll take a look at that at a later
Okay,
time.
I'll send
Yeah.
you this. Thank you.
Good evening, Ms. Mayor and Council. Thank you for having us all here tonight. My name is Gina Cole. I live on Hill Avenue. I think I'm in Dr. B's district. I'm here also to talk about McDonald's. I wasn't here for the 15th. I was out of town, so I missed that meeting. Just to reiterate what Consuelo said, nowhere in that beautiful watercolor display that we had, that you spent $20,000 to look at and to explain to us and to build on and to inspire us, nowhere did that have a McDonald's. Nowhere. And I kind of feel cheated. I kind of feel like it was slipped in under the rug. Granted, I didn't go to the Planning Commission meeting the week before where it was pushed through Planning Commission. So I didn't have my finger on the trigger there, or the finger on the pulse of what was going on. However, 4 years ago, my son read Fast Food Nation, which is a book. I'm sure most of you have probably looked at it at one point or another, and he read it for school, and he read it, and I read it with him, and that's when we decided that we weren't going to be fast food people. He looked at me one day, he's like, "We can't even go for sweet tea, can we?" And I said, "No, we can't. We can't even go for sweet tea." And that's one of our favorite things. I have to make it at home now. But it was a conscious choice for us to not support a major corporation that may or may not have, according to this particular book, and these documents, business practices that I couldn't live with. I'm not a vegetarian. I'm not a vegan. I eat pigs and cows and all of that, but I don't choose them from McDonald's. I try to feed my kids healthy when we're on the road. It means that I spend more on food when we travel. I stop somewhere at a restaurant, or we pack food to take with us, including our jug of sweet tea. But it's a choice, and I don't feel like we were allowed as a community to express our choice before the vote was made. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Any other members of the public wishing to address us on an item not on our agenda? Seeing no further comments, I will return this to council for their oral communications. Councilmember Kaufman Gomez.
We have a few things that are going on here just recently. The one thing is we have Halloween going Friday night. It's getting dark very early, and we just want to make sure that the youth and the families that are going to be out there are taking really good conscious effort of the safety that we need. There's a lot of traffic that is a result of all of the kids coming into town and trooping through the neighborhoods, a lot of excitement, a lot of sugar energy going on out there as well. So please really be more conscientious about what's going on, especially Friday, where there might be a little bit later hours spent with the trick-or-treaters out there. So just keep that in mind, if you will. Again, the Project Homeless, I'm glad that you came to do the announcement because that was on my list. We also have the Wine and Roses for the Pajaro Valley Health Trust, which is proactive in fundraising for this community for the purpose of many of the health issues that were addressed previously, particularly diabetes and whatnot. So that is a function that's going to be coming up here shortly. And I'm just peace and unity. We're going to have the march downtown Saturday at noon, I believe it is. We may hear a little bit more about that as well from other council members. So those are just a few of the announcements that I have for the folks that are listening in today. Thank you.
Thanks. Councilmember Hurst?
Thank you, Mayor. I really appreciate the announcement regarding homeless and vets. Kimberly, thank you for bringing that to us, and also Margarita, the services that Cabrillo provides as well. Very important access that needs to be more embraced in the community, both those issues. I'm sorry I wasn't here last week or 2 weeks ago for the big meeting. I'm still reviewing the tapes on that. I was ill that evening and unable to attend. But I know that there's disappointment in the community about a lot of things throughout the city and throughout the county and throughout the Central Coast. And even though it's a beautiful place to live, there's a lot of poverty and a lot of joblessness and public safety issues and low levels of income. And so there's a lot of issues that we are disappointed about and would like to do more and do better. And that's why the community needs to come together and plot a vision that's sustainable and workable, doable, and realistic as well. I think it's ironic that we have Halloween and the proliferation of sweets and candy and all those things that are probably not good for anybody, but we go engage in it anyway. And people dress up in silly costumes and scare each other, and you know, there's fright associated with that. We know that might not be the kind of image that we really want to share with everybody either. And then it runs into elections, and that can be kind of scary too. In fact, we get a lot of people masquerading and telling us stories and feeding us junk in some ways. We get a lot of paperwork too. We get a general election ballot. We get a summary, a supplemental ballot. We get a supplementals to the supplemental, and then we get the sample ballot as well. So there's a lot of paper there to look at and absorb and digest. And then we get the ballot. And I want to show you what it looks like, because hopefully you've gotten one of these and you can see it's two-sided and you know what to do with it, right? You can't just let it sit in the bill pile. Not everybody gets a paper absentee ballot, but many do. So for those folks with a absentee or a paper ballot, remember, it takes 49 cents to send it in back by the mail. But you can drop it off for free at the clerk's office. You can even stick it in the box down by the police station. Is that just on election day, or can they do that anytime?
They can do it anytime.
Well, don't forget to pull that out of your bill pile, and there's a blue envelope. You might recognize that. So make sure that you get it turned in. And you can turn it in any time, but it won't do any good if you don't get it in by 8 o'clock on election day, right?
Yes.
This is important stuff. Don't forget to sign it. Don't forget that if you lose it, you can go to a polling place. You can even do a provisional ballot if there's a question about your registration. So let's all remember to do our civic duty if we can, participate in democracy, so that we can build a better vision, a better community, that we can all have some ownership in it. And we may not agree on everything, but we should have our voice and our day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Hurst. Councilmember Dodge?
I apologize for running behind a little bit. I thought there was a quorum, and I'm not feeling as well as I look. So, good evening, everybody. I would really like to keep my remarks short. I do want to echo the remarks for the Peace and Unity March that will be this weekend. There's been a coalition of folks throughout the community to be able to sponsor and to hold that Peace and Unity March. It's the 20th annual march. It's growing and growing and growing, and due to all the recent violence that we've had that's been very well publicized in the news, there's no greater occasion to be able to come out as a community member and stand up and show your support for bringing peace and unity to our community. I also wanted to announce really quick that Jack Cigar in downtown Watsonville is going to be celebrating their 100th anniversary. It's a local business that's it's a mainstay in our community. There's been 2 owners in the 100 years that it's been in business, and I want to congratulate them for a remarkable tenure. I also wanted to be able to mention that the Pajaro Valley Arts Council is holding an event on November 2nd. If you've never been to an event for the Pajaro Valley Arts Council, they're really well done. It's on Sutton Street. I want to invite everybody to come out and show their support for the Mi Casa es Tu Casa annual. This year, the theme is Visitations, and it starts at Sunday at 2 o'clock. Also there at the Pajaro Valley Arts Council, following the Peace and Unity March, there is a Day of the Dead celebration, and the beneficiaries for that afternoon event will be the White Hawk Dancers, a local institution and always a favorite of mine. And I really wanted to echo 2 things. One on a kind of a sad note, a good friend of mine, Sister Monica Parker, passed away recently. Miss her a lot, and her memorial services will be at, celebration of her life will be at Inner Light Ministries at Sunday at 5 o'clock. And continuing the theme of Sunday afternoon events, the Brad Hiller Award will be presented by the Center for Community Advocacy in Salinas, and our own Assemblyman Luis Alejo is being honored with the Leadership Award for his tireless efforts during his tenure at the State Assembly on behalf of farm worker families and working families throughout the community. We had an AB 60 event in the community room that was attended by myself, Lieutenant Zamora, who's in the audience, Assemblyman Luis Alejo, and the Mayor, Karina Cervantes, that was filled to the brim with people who wanted to know information on driver's license for residents in our community who have none. And those were the efforts that brought forth by Assemblyman Luis Alejo, and I want to acknowledge him for that. November 4th is Election Day, and there's nothing speaks louder within the power of your vote. So, si se puede. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Just a couple of additions to what Councilmember Hurst started with in terms of emphasizing the importance of getting out and voting. And I do think that at this point it would probably be best to walk in your absentee ballot if you're still hanging on to those. It's just really important. Those have to be in to the city clerk, be into polling places in order to be counted. And at this point, it might be cutting it too close to mail them out. So I would just advise walking them in, and you could walk them into City Hall here, any polling place, or as they mentioned, that drop box outside of the police department. I also want to remind folks that Watsonville community is a community that promotes accessibility to the ballot, and we've adopted the opportunity to open up on the weekends here at the Civic Plaza, and so we are open Saturday and Sunday. People can come in from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Beginning this Saturday and Sunday. The other sort of exciting outcomes that I forgot to mention at the last meeting was that we did have our River Park community garden proposal adopted by the Parks and Recreation Commission. So I do want to thank the commissioners for moving that proposal forward. We're working with Mesa Verde Gardens on putting together the infrastructure for that and working with the River Park community to be able to set up the infrastructure. So up to 25 families, perhaps more, depending on the layout, can begin to garden and grow their own food. So it's a really exciting development for the River Park community in particular. And I also wanted to highlight that El Charrito Market, what was previously known as El Charrito Market on 29 East Beach Street, they've been moving forward. There's a new owner, a new set of owners coming in and trying to also establish healthier options for the young high schoolers there, and being able to offer sort of an alternative to McDonald's in terms of being able to offer an affordable and also a healthier lunch option for students at Watsonville High School, and also for all of our downtown residents and businesses as well. And so that's set to open sometimes in mid-November. So I do want to encourage all of us to continue to shop local, shop healthy, and as well as promoting those businesses that are venturing out and starting their own businesses. Thank you. Yes, we have.
But I just wanted to make a statement. I certainly respect and understand people's right to disagree about the McDonald's issue. I think that's totally legitimate. What is not fair is to say that this was somehow snuck through or was hidden from the community. There were actually 4 public hearings on the McDonald's over the last year. And a year ago, the council approved the purchase sale agreement for that property, and there were headline articles in both the Sentinel and the Pajaronian that said McDonald's coming to downtown Watsonville a year ago. That was the first of 4 public hearings on this item. So I think it's perfectly legitimate to disagree about it, but it's not fair to say that somehow the city or city staff snuck this through or didn't talk about it. It was, both papers had headline articles, 2013, 4 public hearings. Thank you.
And we do have a report out of a closed session from Attorney Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. We had 2 items discussed regarding leases in closed session with the property negotiators. First was 125 Aviation Way. Second was 100 Aviation Way. And the council took no action on either of those items. And we also had discussion about existing litigation. And again, the council received information but took no final action on that case. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have a presentation by our Assembly Member Alejo providing a legislative update for us this evening.
Thank you very much, council members, Madam Mayor. Good to be back in these chambers where I have a lot of good memories and some not so good memories at times. But that's part of the job. But first of all, I'm wearing my Giants colors because we had a horrible second inning. It's 8-0 with Royals ahead of the Giants, but we're hoping for some luck these last 4 innings. But I did want to, before I do my presentation, I did want to also, as a former council member and as an active resident of the downtown, I want to also commend this council because sometimes you get the criticisms, but you don't get the accolades for when you're doing some great, innovative, cutting-edge leadership in our community and throughout the Monterey Bay area. And I've been here, I worked on some of these issues, and then it's been carried on by other council members, but I've seen the expansion of our farmers market. I've seen the first community garden by Councilmember Montesino, and another one is coming in Madam Mayor's district pretty soon. We've seen the city was the first city to push smoke-free parks and for smoke-free parking lots in the city when others were not taking on that issue to make sure we had parks free of air pollution. We restored parks like Callahan, and the city's moving forward recently with the new skate park, so kids are out there exercising and enjoying the outdoors. These are all things to be commended for. Even when we had blighted areas like the Romo lot and the Hanson lot off Main Street, we turned those into green spaces. We turned them to parks. Even Seba School was using Romo Park as their exercise lot where kids were playing and exercising. So for me, I have to always say, you might disagree on an issue, but also recognize that our council members are doing some great things that other cities are not doing. We're the first city to have a youth city council, for Christ's sake, investing in creating leadership for our young people. So as your assembly member, representing 500,000 people, 9 cities, 4 counties, when I see a city doing some great things, I also have to remind my constituents this council is doing some good things that worthy of commendation as well. Not to mention phasing out styrofoam, phasing out plastic bags. We're the city leading on some of those environmental quality issues. But I have a brief presentation. I'm going to try to make it quick. I know you got a lot of other things on the agenda, but I try to do one legislative briefing every year for every city in my district and every county board of supervisors as well. And I want to have our help here navigating through some of these slides. I just want to remind the public that I'm currently the chairman of the Assembly Environmental Safety and Toxic Materials Committee, but also serve on the Assembly Labor and Employment, Local Government, and Judiciary Committees. I'm also currently the vice chair of the Latino Legislative Caucus. Come December 1st, I become the next chairman for my last 2 years in the Assembly of the caucus that is the largest, one of the most powerful, comprised of 6 senators and 18 assembly members. And lastly, I want to remind the folks that around this time, we always start There Ought to Be a Law contest, where we ask the public to submit ideas for legislation. I always carry at least one bill that came from the public. Last year, one idea was submitted, and 4 weeks ago it was signed into law, an idea to expedite workers' compensation hearings for certain categories of injured workers, and that idea was submitted by Watsonville attorney Dory Rosinda, who's now the director of Salud para la Gente, but that will help many injured workers get their benefits, their medical and their benefits in a quicker fashion. I just want to remind the public that this is my district, so I started up as north of in Morgan Hill. I covered Gilroy, all South Santa Clara County, South Santa Cruz County, which is only Watsonville, all of San Benito, the cities there, Hollister and San Juan Bautista, and most of Monterey County, all the Salinas Valley, including the beautiful Big Sur coastline. Last year was a remarkable year. I sent 11 bills to the governor. 100% of my bills got signed into law. And when they did the rankings of who was ranked the most effective assembly member by the Capitol Lunar Report, I was proud that the Speaker of the Assembly came in number 5, and I was proud to come in number 1 last year. And for me, that's an accomplishment of the hard work representing the constituents of my district. This year, I sent 12 bills to the governor. 11 were signed into law. And we had a wide range of legislative accomplishments, from including more protections for victims of human trafficking to cracking down on illegal gun trafficking. And we've had some tragic incidents in Watson and Salinas recently, including the tragic death of a 4-year-old little baby girl. But that's my commitment, to try to make our neighborhoods safer. But overall, the legislature is paying down our debt. Our credit rating is improving as a result of doing that, and that's helping California's economy recover. But we're also instituting a rainy day fund so that the state has a bigger kind of a safety net, so that when hard times come again, we have more and it can mitigate the hard cuts that we've had to make in the last few years. And that's on the ballot, Proposition 2, to have this rainy day fund as part of our overall budget, and the voters will decide on that, and I encourage them to support that. And we're also going to have a budget surplus for at least the next 5 years, and so we're going to use those dollars wisely. We're also, California is leading the implementation of the Affordable Care Act. We used to have 22% uninsured in California, and in 1 year alone, that number has been cut in half to 11%. We still have a lot more work to do to include people who are eligible, to bring them into the system, to make sure that they're covered by health insurance, but we've made some great strides. California is leading the nation in terms of addressing that. And we've also restored more money to our public schools this fiscal year. They will receive $5.6 billion more than the previous year. And that's our commitment to give our kids the resources they need to have a high-quality education. Another major legislation that was implemented this fiscal year is the middle class scholarship. This is our commitment to make college more affordable for our students who are going to go to college or those who are already there. But this fiscal year went into effect. 73,000 college students benefited this year alone. The middle class scholarship will reduce college tuition at the CSU system or the University of California system by 40% once it's fully implemented. As you see here, it's going to be phased in over 4 years. But basically what that means, if your family makes $100,000 or less and your child goes to UC Santa Cruz, they will save $5,000 a year, $20,000 over 4 years. If they go to CSU Monterey Bay, it's $2,200 over 4 years. That's almost $9,000 the family will save over that time. So it's really, I think, will help families pay for the college expenses. The only bill I didn't get vetoed, and I want to thank the city of Watsonville, because you guys have been one of the cities, along with Greenfield, who have really helped me on this legislation. It's intended for Watsonville. It's intended for places like Greenfield and Salinas. Economically disadvantaged communities, cities with high poverty, high unemployment, high crime. We used to have redevelopment that went away 3 years ago. I was one of the few Democrats who didn't vote to do that. We were committed to reform it, not eliminate it as an important tool for economic development, job creation, and affordable housing. So I've worked closely with the League of Cities on this bill. It was my only bill that was vetoed, but if you read the governor's veto, and what I heard from governor's staff, he likes this bill. He wants some technical changes made to it next year, and we could get this signed into law. This would be a landmark bill for a lot of economically disadvantaged cities just like Watsonville. It basically allows cities to keep local tax money, tax increment that would otherwise go to Sacramento. You keep some of that here locally to create jobs, promote economic development. 75% would go towards that, 25% would be set aside for affordable housing. In your packet, I put some information on infrastructure finance districts. That's another tool that was approved that the governor has been more supportive of, but it's just another option to deal with the same goals. I want to talk very quickly about the plastic bag phase-out bill that was signed this year, because Watsonville had its own ordinance a few years ago. This year, we did one statewide, and I was a principal co-author of this bill. It will phase out the use of single-use plastic bags come July 1st of next year. That's going to be for larger grocery stores. For convenience stores, smaller stores, it will be phased in 2016. But it basically phases out the single use, where people would only use it one time and throw it away, or many of these would end up out in our rivers, on the ocean. Now you have to use the reusable bags that have 125 lifespan, or a paper bag. Stores would be required to charge at least 10 cents for it, but all local ordinances that were instituted before September 1st, 2014, like Watsonville and Santa Cruz and City of Salinas, will not be phased by the statewide bill. You guys will keep your own local ordinance. I only put that photo there to remind people that many of us in the Latino community, our families often used reusable bags generations ago. Our grandparents used it when we would go to the mercado to go shopping. We would bring our belongings home. So for me, this is only going back to our cultural traditions. But another reason I support this bill was something that's important to the Pajaro Valley. As you see these images, a lot of plastic is used in agriculture, whether it's fumigation, which deals with a lot of pest issues and soil problems early on, but also when you grow the strawberries or you grow the crops, plastic is used because it helps protect the fruit from water or soil damage. It also helps the plants grow better, according to the research that has been done. But every year, 125 million tons of this plastic ends up in our landfills. They used to ship it overseas, but that market is no longer there, so it goes into our landfills. So there's a huge environmental problem of all this plastic ending up in landfills. So this bill creates an incentive to pull that plastic out. Instead of going to the landfills, pull it out, and there's an economic incentive for companies to clean it, wash it, break it down. They burn it down to pellets and recycle this plastic. And this bill will require that these new reusable bags, these thicker bags, 20% has to be made by this recycled plastic by January 1st, 2016, and by 2020, 40% will be used. This photo here is an actual company, the first in California, an innovative company that has already created 50 jobs, will create up to 200 jobs recycling this agricultural plastic, and it's in Salinas at the Firestone Business Park. So, but we hope that more companies will. They can only deal with about 13 to 15 million tons of that plastic because they're just starting. But now this bill will create an incentive for them to utilize and recycle more of that plastic. I only want to talk to you about two issues here, the water bond and AB 60, the driver's license bill, to give you an update. This, I'm using these photos at all my presentations because this is an image of orange groves outside of Porterville, where Madam Mayor's family lives at. They're surrounded by orange groves. It's one of the biggest industries in that part of the Central Valley. They grow tangerines, lemons, oranges. But because of a lack of water, we took this photo just 3 days ago. These orange groves are all going dry because of a lack of water. The year before, they were full of fruit. When these trees usually take anywhere from 10 to 20 years to fully mature and to be the most productive. And I brought this image to show the public what has happened in only 10 months. That first image there, where you see the red color, is what they call extreme drought, the second worst category, and it covers most of the state of California, and that was in January. And as of October, this month, now you can see most of the state has moved to the darkest red, which is the exceptional category, the worst category of drought in the state of California. So this is real for the Pajaro Valley, is real for the Salinas Valley, the Central Valley. Many of our areas are going to have water issues, availability issues in the next few years. These problems are only going to get worse. So that leads to this next slide, where I'm tasking councils, and I know it's on your agenda later today. Thank you for agendizing it. We're asking all cities, all counties, boards of supervisors to support Proposition 1, because this was reached through a compromise, an agreement between Democrats and Republicans. It was unanimous in the Assembly, 78-0, a $7.5 billion bond that's before the voters. It used to be 11. The voters thought that was too much, so we nailed it down to an amount that was reasonable. But in that bond, you have $2.7 billion for water storage infrastructure projects. These would be 2 new dams or extended dams in California. The Central Coast Regional IRWIMP, this is the regional pot of money for our own water infrastructure needs. There were only 3 areas that got more money at the end of the negotiations. North Coast got $5 million. Orange County, San Diego got $10 million. The Central Coast, I fought hard to get $15 more million for a total of $43 million for our local water needs. But as you could see, there's also $80 million for Coastal Conservancy, $520 million for making sure communities have safe and clean drinking water, to help places like Springfield and Moss Landing and San Lucas that have arsenic or nitrates in their water. We have $725 million for water recycling, $900 million for groundwater sustainability, almost 1.5, that should be billion, not million, for ecosystems and watershed protection, among other categories there. So there's a lot of pots of money that cities like Watsonville, the county of Santa Cruz, could apply for, compete for, draw down to make sure we're addressing our future water needs through these resources. So what can we do? Obviously, I want to make the pitch, hopefully supporting Proposition 1. I put these photos to remind members of the public. This is in Watsonville, but this is another small rural community called Mendota, that in 2009 they had long food lines where farm worker families, some of the poorest families in our state, were standing in line trying to get their box of food. It was reminiscent of the Dust Bowl area. They didn't have any water. When you have no water, you have no jobs. And when people have no jobs, they have no money to spend at local restaurants, grocery stores. It hurts the local economies of those rural areas. So they had a march from Mendota to the San Luis Reservoir to raise attention about how this was impacting everyday hardworking Californians. Just skip that slide. We have, now I want to just talk about AB 60. This is a landmark bill that was signed by Governor Brown last year and was authored by myself. But it goes into effect in 65 days, but this was images of the town hall we had. We're trying to prepare communities for the implementation come January 1st, but you could see hundreds of people showing up at St. Mary's Church in Salinas on September 4th. The next slide. This was Watsonville, another packed community room right next door. People even had to sit all around the sides of the walls. It was so packed. But I wanted to thank the city of Watsonville and the council members Dodge and Mayor Karina Cervantes and Lowell Hurst and Eduardo Montesino for working to put this together. But it's also trying to prepare our local residents for the requirements of AB 60. There's a lot of things that need to be done in 65 days, and this hearing was intended to help our local residents. So this is a bill I'm very proud of because it was also another product of Democrats and Republicans working together. We got the first endorsement by the California police chiefs to support this bill. All the ag associations, labor unions, immigrant rights groups all supported AB 60. We finally made it a reality after 20 years for fighting for this bill in Sacramento. It's expected to benefit over 2 million undocumented immigrants. And I always like telling people it doesn't give them a license. It only gives them the opportunity to earn it just like everyone else. They take the written test, the driving test to show they could operate a motor vehicle, and they have to obtain auto insurance like everyone else. But they also have to fulfill other requirements. They have to show documents to show they qualify, including proof of California residency of at least 6 months, utilizing either a rent contract or a water or utility bill. But we also make sure that it's affordable. It's only going to be $33. There was debate last year whether it was going to cost a lot more, but we made sure this was as affordable as possible. It would be $33, just like everyone else. But the legislature and the governor also approved this year alone $65 million to implement during the first year alone, 1,000 new DMV workers, and they're opening 4 regional offices that will only process AB60 driver's license. The closest one will be in the city of San Jose, serving all the Monterey Bay Central Coast region. But there was controversy about what's going to be on the front of the license. And so I made this image so people could see, because in 2005, Congress in Washington, D.C. Passed the Real ID Act that from that point forward said that if you provide driver's license to undocumented immigrants, it must have distinguishable features on the front of the license. So last year, to meet the minimal requirements of that federal law, we're going to change one letter next to the number where it says DL for driver's license. We're going to change it to DP for driving privilege. We submitted that to Department of Homeland Security. They said that that wasn't enough to meet the federal requirements. So a month ago, we reached a compromise saying that the license will have these 3 words on front saying federal limits apply. That basically says that you cannot use this particular license to board an airplane or enter a federally secure building like the Pentagon or some other building. That's the only limitation it will have. Otherwise, it will look exactly the same and function the same as everyone else. So, but to address some of the concerns from the immigrant community, we did add some additional protections. California is the 11th state to enact this bill into law, but we're the first to include anti-discrimination provisions saying you cannot discriminate against anyone who has this particular type of driver's license. That includes local police departments or other public agencies or private employers. On top of that, another bill of mine was signed this year, basically clarifies that all the information submitted to the DMV is confidential. The DMV cannot submit it with any outside agency. That was to assure the immigrant community that that information was going to be protected. On top of that, another bill that was co-authored by Assemblymember Dickinson from Sacramento and myself says it's illegal to charge anyone to fill out a DMV application because we knew there was going to be those scofflaws, notarios or attorneys who are trying to exploit the immigrant community. We want the community to know no, it's only $33. The only cost you should pay to the DMV, unless you want to take a traffic driving course or prep course. That's optional. That's up to you, but you should not be paying anyone else with making false promises. But this bill will make California's roads safer when there's more people who know the traffic laws. Also, immigrant families will be able to drive without fear that their car is going to get impounded for 30 days and face a $2,000 fine or more for that 30-day impound. Or even worse, families have been put in deportation proceedings for not having a license. And also, we know this is going to have a huge economic benefit. There's going to be 2 million more people in California buying auto insurance, buying cars. And as the Community Credit Union branch manager here in Watsonville told me, they have loans to give to immigrant families to buy cars, but the number one requirement is they have to have a license. So he said, now we're going to have a lot more local people being able to get these low-cost auto loans with this legislation as well. So lastly, I want to do my shameless plug. We're rooting for the Giants. Hopefully we get a better night. Ends up in a good way. But certainly we got our local team in the World Series, and to hopefully win 3 out of the last 5 years in the World Series would be a tremendous accomplishment. With that, thank you very much for your time, and I don't want to take any more. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, that optimistic closing. Any questions from council members? Yes, Councilmember Hurst.
I just want to thank you very much, Assemblyman, for your work with AB 60. I was in the room and utilized the translation services, and it gave me a perspective that I might not have had before. And so I really appreciate your hard work for the hardworking people here in this community. Thank you.
And
statewide.
And Councilmember Hurst, as you saw in that presentation, there's 36 questions. People could only miss 6, right? So it's important. We're encouraging communities to not wait till January, pick up a book at the DMV in Spanish or in another 10 languages, and they could start studying now, so hopefully they could pass on the first try. Nevada enacted this law this year by Republican Governor Brian Sandoval, and 90% of the people coming in to take their exam were failing on the first try. California could do a better job, and that's why, with the support of everyone here and everyone at home, encouraging people to study now. Don't wait till January. Hopefully we'll have a better success rate at people passing the exam. If they take the test in Spanish, they have 18 additional questions only on traffic signs, And that's why we passed out study cards for people to go over all the cards, because many of the signs are in English. The intent there is that they would understand what all these signs mean when some of them are in English as well. So if they take it in Spanish or another language other than English, there is those additional 18 questions they have to also pass.
Thank you very much. We all know education is very important.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dodge?
Thank you for the presentation, Assemblyman Alejo. I really appreciated I wish I had $1 for every time somebody asked me what happens to that plastic that's in the field. And I think it's very significant that it's going to be addressed, and knowing the history of the community in Salinas Valley, to be able to understand it's going to be at the old Firestone plant is very significant. I did want to also echo support for the water bond. I think it's very significant, but I think that when the slides, when you were showing us about, you mentioned 11 out of last year for the assembly bills, 11 out of 12 this year, so that's quite the average. And on behalf of this council and myself, we want to thank you for coming back to Watsonville and dedicating your life in service of our community. So we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Montesino? Last question.
Good afternoon, and thank you for that effort. But I know there's, for all your work that you do. But one of my questions was, because the Youth Council had a presentation yesterday on this topic, and from a youth group advocacy from the high school. And one of the questions, if I remember correctly, was where can people report people trying to take advantage of people? I mean, where is there someone you can report it to, or?
Yes, certainly I would like to hear about it as the author of this bill, but also the local district attorney would be an appropriate place to file a complaint. And also certainly the DMV, we're going to be monitoring, once it's implemented, if there's any cases of people taking advantage, exploiting immigrant families with this. And we certainly, I know the Attorney General of California, Kamala Harris, is committed to also making sure this law is carried out the way it's supposed to. So, but the local reporting agency will be our local district attorney's office.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks for joining us this evening.
And Madam Mayor, I won't take any more time here, but we'll present this resolution. I brought something just in commemorating the 25th anniversary of the 1989 October 17th Loma Prieta earthquake. It was something that impacted the downtown. A lot of our buildings were destroyed for many years, including this very site.
That's right.
That was an empty lot for many years. We had a death right off West Beach, and a lot of our families were living in the tent cities in our local parks for a long time. So it's always important to remember your history, because you never know when another earthquake is going to come around the corner. It's an important reminder for communities to be ready, to be prepared for if there is another major earthquake, what will Watsonville do? So maybe it's something to just consider for the future, to have that plan, review it every now and then, to remind folks that tragedy in 1989 is a reminder we always got to stay vigilant. And so I just brought a resolution to present to the council. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks. We'll hang it very high in our office. Next, I want to invite CURB members up to provide their presentation. Community Prevention Partners and Project CURB.
Good evening, council members. My name is Guadalupe Alvarez Garcia. I work for Project CURB, which is a project part of CPP, Community Preventions Partner. I was recently hired as a community organizer for this project, and today we will be presenting and have a group of community leaders that are here present to talk about some of the stories. I wanted to share with you a little bit of a brief background on Community Preventions Partners and Project Curve. We are a coalition of 160 members addressing drug and alcohol prevention efforts for youth. We work to support our community when faced with challenges. CPP encompasses the entire county from Davenport to Watsonville, and it has been in existence since 1991. Our focus is marijuana, prescription drug, and alcohol. Our vision is bridging drugs and alcohol prevention for a safer community. Project Curve Community United to Reduce Binging is a project of CPP addressing underage drinking and binge drinking. Since 2014, when we discovered that we were rated 6 in the state for underage binging drinking. Our current focus is alcohol density and crime. Many implications of high concentration of outlets research has shown correlations of alcohol outlet density and poverty and crime, as you can see in the map. We see these links locally. This map of Watsonville shows areas of higher poverty, dark green, have higher concentration of alcohol outlets. There are community members here tonight that would like to share their stories and experiences, and I will pass them to you. Thank you.
Buenas tardes, miembros del concilio. Mi nombre es Andrea Camacho. Soy miembro del proyecto CURB. Estoy preocupada por lo que pasa en nuestra vecindad, donde yo hago mis compras de comida ubicada por la calle Main. Hay 4 tiendas muy cercas una de la otra donde se vende alcohol. Las tiendas venden alcohol a personas que ya están intoxicadas. Estas personas borrachas suben a sus carros y manejan muy recio. Pueden provocar un accidente o incluso la muerte de una persona. Los negocios no están obedeciendo las leyes. Queremos familias saludables, libres de alcohol. No queremos más negocios con venta de alcohol. Gracias.
Gracias. We're going to just have the translation of that comment by Ms. Camacho.
Good evening. My name is Andrea Camacho, and I'm a member of CURB. I am worried about what happens in our neighborhood where I do my purchases in Main Street. There's 4 stores that are very near each other. These stores sell liquor to intoxicated people. These intoxicated people get into their vehicles and can provoke an accident and harm other people. The businesses are not obeying the laws. We want communities free of alcohol. We do not want alcohol in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Ana Carpio y mi historia es de que yo estaba en una tienda aquí por la Rodríguez y adelante de mí estaba una persona muy intoxicada que tenía un fuerte olor a orines y para mi sorpresa tenía una botella de cervezas, quería cerveza y la persona que la estaba atendiendo se la vendió a pesar de que él ya estaba tan intoxicado. Y este es un ejemplo de cómo las leyes aquí en Watsonville no se están cumpliendo. Y es por eso de que yo estoy aquí, porque como soy miembro de la comunidad, tengo familia, tengo mi familia, yo no quiero esto para mi familia ni para nadie de la comunidad, que no se están cumpliendo estas leyes. Y les pido por favor que nos ayuden y nos apoyen para que se cumplan las leyes aquí en Watsonville. Y si nosotros queremos que otros negocios de afuera vengan y las personas vengan a disfrutar lo bonito que es Watsonville, necesitamos tener primero una ciudad segura. Si no tenemos una ciudad segura, las personas no van a venir. Y las personas no vamos a consumir aquí, vamos a salir fuera o las personas no van a ser bienvenidas aquí porque tienen miedo de la seguridad. Gracias.
Gracias.
My name is Ana Trapio, and my history is I was in a store here by Rodriguez, and in front of me there was a person in front of me was in front of me, and he had a strong smell of urine. and he had some beer bottles, and the person who was helping him, he sold this even though he was already intoxicated. This is an example of how the laws are not being respected, and this is why I'm here. Because I am a member of the community, I have my family. I don't want this to happen, for this to be happening to my family. The laws are not being obeyed, and I'm asking you, please help us support that these laws are obeyed in Watsonville. And if we want other businesses to come into Watsonville, or other people come into Watsonville to enjoy Watsonville, we need to have a safe city. If we don't have a safe city, other people will not come. And those people and we are not going to consume in Watsonville. And other people are not going to come to Watsonville because they're going to be afraid of security. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, City Council. My name is Eddie Robles. I'm 17 years old and I attend the Watsonville Community School. And I am here to express my concerns on safety in our community. A few months ago, I was walking home from Youth Now, and I stopped at a store to get chips and a drink. And while I was there, two young men did a beer run. I was shocked by this, and when I looked, the cashier didn't do anything, and once I asked him why he wasn't calling the police, he said that there was no point because it has happened before, and that they didn't show up, and that they wouldn't show up. So I was really taken back by that, you know. I was afraid. I still haven't gone there to this day, and the reason is because I witnessed a crime and no action was taken. And I want a community, and I want that kids can go to a store and buy chips and a drink and not witness a crime, or if they do, to at least know that action will be taken the moment it happens. So what I ask for today is, we have provided some information in the packets, and we ask that you can work with us to address these challenges in the community.
We also ask the City Council to keep in mind when, with these statistics, as the city considers future changes on economic development, to consider some of the stories that today were shared with all of you guys. And there's community members here today that, due to the time, were not able to share their stories, but I would like them to stand up, if possible. I also wanted to mention that I am a mom and I do have kids myself, and that it is very important for us to keep a safe community because our youth are the future of tomorrow, and that if we invest in them, they will be the leaders that will represent us when we all retire. Thank you so much for today, and we hope that we continue to work together in the City Council. Have a good night.
Great. Thank you for your presentation.
Do you guys have any questions? I was about to leave, but I do have Shebra. She's going to be answering some of the questions you may have.
Councilmember Kaufman Gomez and Councilmember Dodge.
Thank you. I too have met with you personally prior to this presentation, and I feel that we do need to make sure that we're following the rules and having these businesses do so as well, and a rematch in terms of a lot of the education that should go on a more regular basis. I know that we're all strapped thin for the resources that they have and the type of enforcement that we need, but we are hoping that we can see some more of these grants come back, because I do know that we did run out of time or we had finished one of the grants that was one of them specifically for the alcohol, and I'm hoping that we'll be seeing that come back again, which will be an additional resource for us. So thank you again for all of the help and support you're doing on this, and what we need to work together. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. You have a good day.
Councilmember Dodge?
Good evening. I want to thank everybody for being here this evening. I really appreciate your attendance here. These are your chambers, and we really love it when people come from the community to be able to let us know about the things that impact them in their everyday lives. Myself and the mayor went out with a group from CURB, and it was a great experience. It was quite informative, and we're both, our doors are open to be able to, when you want to continue to communicate with us. My question pertains could you tell us just a little bit about the members of the community and how they've come together and how often they meet, so we can know a little bit about yourselves?
Hi, my name is Shebra Kalantari Johnson. I also am a participant and work with Project CURB and CPP. Lupe asked me to answer questions because she's sort of new to the project. We've been working with the community for about 1.5 years now. We've been providing workshops and presentations, mostly to hear what the community's concerns are and what their experiences are. We've held the workshops in neighborhood community centers as well as churches. And the other thing I did want to mention is that we've been working very closely with the Watsonville Police Department. They've been very, very helpful in helping us sort of think through this issue.
Well, I think it's an important issue. Many years ago, I started my somewhat political career interested in planning and serving on the Planning Commission about high-density alcohol outlets in our community. And the alcohol policy that was passed by the City Council many years ago came after extenuous debate and a bunch of different partners working together. So I understand the issue. I also understand that certain stores, I can answer Eddie, they have a policy of if there's a beer run, they don't go after the person because they don't want to see their employees hurt. I live across the street from a 7-Eleven, so I've witnessed it on many occasions. But that being said, thank you for your efforts. I think it's something that you need to be able to continuously to advocate, and I'm really excited about seeing community members here in our chambers, and I hope you continue to dialogue with us. So thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for being here and for always being part of the conversation. Thank you. So next on our agenda is our consent agenda, and all items appearing on our consent agenda are recommended actions which are considered to be routine and will be acted upon in one consensus motion. Any items removed will be considered immediately after the consensus motion. And there will be an opportunity for public input. And I am going to be pulling item 4.3, so this is the Mayor's Challenge to End Veteran Homelessness, to become item 5.1 following our consent agenda, and that's just to allow a little bit more opportunity for discussion. Councilmember Dodge?
I too wanted to pull item 4.3. But really briefly, though, on item 4.2, I think it's very important that we support Proposition 1. We heard Assemblyman Alejo address it, and I encourage everybody to support Proposition 1 on their November 4th ballot.
Great. Is there any other members of the public, before I return this to council, wishing to address us on the consent agenda specifically? Okay, seeing no public comment on the consent agenda. Councilmember Hurst?
Mayor, I'd like to pull item 4.5, please, for some questions and clarifications.
Sure, so item 4.5 is now 5.2.
Thank you.
Councilmember Kaufman Gomez?
I just have a question with staff on 4.4 when we get a chance.
Okay, so this has to do with our sales and use tax and Measure G.
Correct.
So is there someone that can answer Councilmember Kaufman Gomez's questions?
See him coming.
How about the money guy?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, the finance manager.
Administrative Services Director Vega.
Okay.
Thank you. We're going to be making the request of the state so that we can go ahead and find out what's going on from the state down to us, correct? on the revenue being generated here for the Measure G funds?
Item 4.4, what we are doing is obtain authorization from the council so that we could actually get data on the sales tax, analyze trends on revenues, and be able to produce the budget on an annual basis for Measure G. So that's what we are doing with item 4.4.
So data trends, budget, and when do you think we would be hearing maybe the first portion of this happening?
We will be receiving the first portion of funds in December. The sales tax was effective October 1st, so the transactions are happening as we speak. And we will have probably the first set of data sometime in January of 2015.
Thank you.
Great. I also wanted to just express my enthusiastic support for Proposition 1. And I did ask our Public Works and Utilities Department to provide a listing of projects that we would be able to apply for funds for financial assistance. Without this financial assistance, completion of these projects becomes very difficult to be able to complete them and improve and upgrade our water treatment systems, for one. It also helps with replacing our water and wastewater infrastructure, replacing an aging system, as well as the design and construction of levees along the Pájaro River and also Salsipuedes Creek, which increases our flood protection here in the city, and especially in those areas surrounding the river and the creek. And I know that Dr. Bilicic works extensively through Zone 7 on a lot of these issues, so a lot of those projects we've been engaging in long-standing conversations about how to bring in the necessary funds to complete them and update and upgrade our existing water system. So Proposition 1 will allow us to compete for these funds, and because of our special designation as a disadvantaged community as well, we do get an edge on some of those monies to help us here locally. So seeing no other comments on the consent agenda, is there a motion?
So moved.
So I'll second.
Okay. Motion by Councilmember Dodge and a second by Councilmember Kaufman Gomez. Can we get a roll call for the vote?
Kaufman, Gomez,
Yes.
Dodge,
Yes.
Hurst,
Yes.
Montesino,
Yes.
Cervantes.
Yes. So our consent calendar moves forward unanimously. So we did pull item, the resolution supporting the mayor's challenge to end veteran homelessness. And I wanted to just very briefly talk about the significance of this resolution. I know that there's some members of the public that will probably also address us on this issue. But this is in collaboration and in coordination with the County of Santa Cruz as well as the City of Santa Cruz. Moving forward this resolution to seek formal support from local leaders for federal, state, and local assistance to further decrease veteran homelessness. This is part of a federal effort called Opening Doors, the Federal Strategic Plan to Prevent and End Homelessness, and that strategic plan has resulted in a reduction in veteran homelessness of 24%. Here, it was not included in our packet, but I did ask for printouts so that you can have this in front of you, council members, which is the outline for the mayor's challenge to end veteran homelessness, as well as the succinct and sort of summarized and neatly laid out version of the 2013 homeless census and survey results, and the focus on subpopulations, including the veterans who are facing homelessness and confronting homelessness. And just very briefly, just to outline, a lot of this information is in the resolution, but I wanted to highlight it as well, is that according to the 2013 Santa Cruz homeless census, out of 3,536 homeless persons in Santa Cruz County, 395 of them are veterans, representing about 11% of the total homeless population. Additionally, 74% of the veteran homeless population has been homeless for 1 year or more, and 70% experience some form of disabling condition. The mayor's challenge specifically outlines a housing first approach that looks to target the most vulnerable homeless veterans, identifying and establishing permanent housing opportunities for these veterans. Here in Santa Cruz County, there is a multi-agency collaborative effort underway to end veteran homeless by December 2015. Also, community-based efforts working with homeless veterans, including faith-based programs, providing outreach, and also essential food and shelter services. And I wanted to introduce this resolution because I do feel that our bravest and those that have fought for our country should not be sleeping on our streets and should have access to permanent housing. And there's a huge need to highlight our current veterans' homeless situation and support ending homelessness among veterans in Santa Cruz County. And so I brought this forward as a request that the City of Watsonville formally commit its support for federal and local efforts by adopting the attached resolution in response to the Mayor's challenge to end veteran homelessness by 2015.
So moved.
Great. So there's a motion by Councilmember Dodge and a second to approve this resolution by Councilmember Hurst. And I don't know if there's any members of the public wishing to address us on this issue.
I think there might be.
Good.
Good evening. My name is Ed Cabrera. I'm with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And I'm here really to thank you for considering this challenge and to affirm our partnership with you should you adopt it. You are not going out on a limb on this issue. On the contrary, you'll be hacking at the root of homelessness by joining really hundreds of cities, counties, and even states that have taken on this challenge, and dozens of communities here in California, from Livermore to Los Angeles, from San Diego to Sacramento, Oakland to Oceanside, Santa Barbara to San Francisco. You'll be joining a team of committed communities that have committed to get to zero homeless veterans on our streets. And you're on the right path already, though there are significant numbers of homeless people in Santa Cruz County in the last, well, since 2010, since the adoption of the federal plan. There's been a 14% decline in chronic homelessness and a slight decline in veterans homelessness as well. So we're moving in the right direction. We know how to get the job done. It's just now time to scale the effort, and HUD is a partner with you every step of the way. We've invested targeted homeless assistance funds and also HUD VASH vouchers that are focused on getting the housing subsidy to homeless veterans in Santa Cruz County. Since fiscal year 2010, we've invested in nearly 200 of those vouchers throughout the county. So again, we're eager to partner with you, and we thank you for your commitment on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I reside here in Watsonville. I'm in District 4. And today was my third day as a case manager Services for Veteran Families organization. It's a coalition between the Pajaro Valley Shelter Services and Homeless Service Center and Families in Transition, as well as backed by the Department of Veteran Affairs. Today, our team housed a veteran. It's my third day. It's incredible. We've housed him, his family, 7 people total. We provided housing, transportation, and grocery assistance. Our team, together with the people in our community, such as the city council members and community leaders, citizens throughout the county, assured 5 children will sleep safely tonight and be at school with full bellies, ready to learn tomorrow. The pledge being made today, Stand Against Homelessness, strengthens our community and honors those who have given us our freedom, often through great personal detriment to their own lives. Thank you for your commitment today and every day moving forward as we strive to end homelessness, especially amongst our veterans in our community.
Thank you.
Good evening again, Mayor and City Council. Kimberly Firm, Executive Director of Pajaro Valley Shelter Services, and I'm here proudly representing a case manager at Pajaro Valley Shelter who is dedicated to working with homeless veterans. I want to share with you 3 quick cases about clients that we're currently working with. One is a veteran family who was living in a home that was rented and the home was foreclosed upon. So the case manager is working with this veteran family to help them find housing so that they can remain housed. They were in that location for several years on Social Security and disability. We have another family who are renters who were there for more than 2 years. The property owner went into a skilled nursing facility, and so the property is being consolidated for her managed care costs. So we're working also with this family to help prevent the homelessness situation. And in both of these cases, there's a veteran involved and who has served our country. We also have a 2-parent household with 3 children under age 18. Both were working. The wife lost her job. They all became homeless, and right now they're living in an extended family situation, and they need to move out. So we're working at Pajaro Valley Shelter with our veteran families to help them help themselves to prevent and end homelessness. And we want to say thank you on behalf of our services available to veterans. Thank you very much for partnering to support the Mayor's challenge to end veteran homelessness. It really does take a partnership, and it really, in regards to outreach and letting people know that if you're a veteran, thank you for your service to our country. Please call us. If you don't have a permanent place to live, please call us. 462-3229, the city of Watsonville, Santa Cruz, the county of Santa Cruz, and a lot of service agencies are here to help you help yourself. And so I have some cards. If anybody's interested, I can leave them here. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
And once again, I come back to thank you for accepting the challenge, Mayor. The Mayor's challenge is really important for our community and other communities, and you've already heard examples of how important it is not only for this community, but the impact that it'll have for our local veterans that are currently experiencing homelessness. And one thing I did want to remind everyone, and it was briefly alluded to, is to the 25th anniversary of the Loma Prieta earthquake, but we have to remember the history of this community is that we have risen to this occasion before and we have helped others rebuild. And so this is an example of how we, as rising to this challenge, we can help our veterans and we can thank them for their service and we can help them come back to a place where they can be safe in an environment, as examples have been given to those veterans that have already found safe places and have begun to help others and find environments which are productive for them and their families. So thank you for rising to this challenge. And I'd like you to mark your calendars for 2015, where you will all be celebrating as the community of Watsonville. And we will all be talking about how we, as the city of Watsonville, rose to the occasion and we ended up with 0 veteran homelessness. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Council. Community. Hi, guys.
Hello.
I'm a new resident of Watsonville. I've been here for about a year now. Very happy resident, actually. About 2 years ago, I couldn't picture something like what I have right now. I found myself homeless about 2 years ago. I had a hard time coming out of the service and struggled for a couple of years, about 5 years. Eventually, I was able to find treatment, which I didn't know who to turn to. VA took me in. They were able to get me the right treatment that I needed. They brought me out here to Santa Cruz. When I got here to Santa Cruz, I didn't know where to go from here, but I knew I was moving forward. through the help of the HUD-VASH program that they have and VRC, I was able to get housed, I was able to have a deposit, and I was able to find actually a landlord here that would take a chance on someone like me. Right now, I'm just kind of giving you an example of one veteran off of the street. I also wanted to say, you know, special thanks for everybody up here who talks about us in such a high way. I just looked at it as a job, but you know, all around us, all around here as a community, that's what it's all about. And when I see anything, people helping out other people coming back to bad places, I mean, it's just overwhelming. So as this community and as a member of this community, I just want to thank all of you guys, and special thanks for all the people over here that got me back from where I once was.
Thank you for your service.
Good evening, council members. My name is Jack Tracy. I'm the program manager for Home Base Santa Cruz, the Supportive Services for Veteran Families program. That's a collaboration, as my case manager mentioned, of Homeless Services Center, Families in Transition, and Pajaro Valley Shelter Services. And really glad to be here tonight to urge you and to actively support the Mayor's Pledge to End Homelessness. As a Vietnam veteran, I worked early in my career on the issues and concerns of Vietnam veterans, and in some ways it's kind of sad to come back here now and be talking about a lot of the same issues that are facing our current generation of veterans as well as the veterans of my generation. And one of the things I wanted to point out as we talk about the PIT count, the point-in-time count of homeless veterans, and we think of it as about 10% or so of the total homeless count, is that veterans for the Iraq and Afghanistan era make up only about 0.5% of the total population of the country. And even veterans of the Vietnam era probably is around 2%. So that, you know, the fact that that 10% of our veterans, or a little more than that, are homeless is pretty significant compared to their percentage of the population. The Home Base Santa Cruz SSVF program is going to be doing extensive outreach throughout the county. We just doubled in size, and Kimberly is our newest case manager, but we have case managers throughout the county, and we have 2 outreach workers who've just started and are going to be looking actively for veterans, as well as going into the community and talking to people who know people, and really looking for kind of the hidden veterans and veteran families, the folks who aren't counted in the PIT count because they're sleeping on friends' or relatives' couches, or living in a converted garage, and you know, living in kind of tenuous circumstances in a crowded apartment or house. Those folks are the folks that we're really going to be targeting to get to them, give them services they need, and get them into housing. And in addition to our case managers and outreach workers, we also have an awesome housing navigator whose job is specifically to work with landlords and begin to build relationships and advocate for the veterans as they go to viewings and begin to talk about being able to lease an apartment. One of the things that we really do need from the community and our community leaders is people who are able to talk to property managers and property owners about the benefits of renting to veterans and helping veterans, and the fact that, you know, giving back to your community and your country is a part of serving these folks and beginning to look at ways that they can maybe change their attitudes about renting to veterans and maybe eventually all homeless persons. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight, and I pass this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor Cervantes and council members. Thank you so much for taking time to hear the public comment. My name is Phil Kramer. I'm the director of 180 2020. Over the past 2.5 years, 180 partner organizations have helped over 200 individuals and families experiencing long-term chronic homelessness into permanent housing. Truly, this was a team effort. It wasn't any one person or any one agency or organization. And now, as part of the national movement and the federal goal shared by dozens or hundreds, according to Ed from HUD, of other communities across the United States, we've set our sights on another big goal, which is just that, to end veteran homelessness in Santa Cruz County by the end of next year, by the end of 2015. I want to thank you, I want to thank the City Council for your support and your commitment to this important objective, to help every veteran in Santa Cruz County who is homeless, to help them on a pathway to health, on a pathway to housing, and a pathway to community integration. Ending veteran homelessness is a big goal, yet we know by working together as a community of concerned citizens, public agencies, private businesses, and faith-based organizations, we can do this. This reminds me a little bit of rolling out the 180 goal, how audacious it was, and our own moments of uncertainty, my own moments of uncertainty. How are we going to house 180 people? But we did it, and we exceeded the goal. We did this by committing ourselves, by committing our resources, and working together as a multi-agency, multi-sector, community collaborative, and by recognizing that status quo isn't good enough. We need to implement smart solutions to end homelessness, and we'll need to make some system changes. The solution to ending homelessness is straightforward, it's fundamental, and it's proven to work. It's not rocket science. It's housing, it's healthcare, and it's systems of support. Of course, it will take some hard work. Status quo won't get us to the goal. We need more affordable housing, more landlords saying yes to Section 8 vouchers and veteran VASH vouchers, and the wraparound services and the supports to help every veteran who's experiencing homeless, every veteran family experiencing homelessness, into long-term, safe, and stable housing. We have the willpower, and with your expression of support and commitment to end veteran homelessness, we can make it happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Seeing no further comment on this issue, I'll return it to council for additional discussion. Councilmember Dodge?
I'd like to move the motion for the resolution supporting the mayor's challenge to end veteran homelessness by 2015.
And I'll second that.
Great. So motion by Councilmember Dodge, second by Councilmember Hurst. Any discussion on the motion, Councilmember Hurst?
Thank you very much, Mayor. I'm really glad to hear this focus. You know, as a teacher and a Vietnam era guy myself, I've seen a lot of vets suffer from economic issues, PTSD, all kinds of stuff, and you don't really have to go very far to see it either. Right on our street corners and under our bridges and our shopping centers, way too many homeless vets suffer. So if we can't do something positive for the veterans, who can we help?
Councilmember Dodge?
Well, I too just want to echo the sentiments. I think that we have an issue with homelessness throughout the county and here in the Pajaro Valley in particular, where a lot of people, and I'm glad that was mentioned, a lot of people in the way we are in the Pajaro Valley with the extended families, we allow people to live in garages and other conditions that are unsafe and unhealthy. So I really think that by taking on this challenge, addressing it for those particular that have served our country, that it's a discussion into ending homelessness throughout the community. There's a great number of families in our community, and I'm very concerned for our children that are spending nights out in the cold. Gracias a Dios, the weather's not too bad yet, but we have a shortage of housing and in places where we can allow families to be able to rest their head in a warm place at night. And I think it's an untold tragedy we don't talk about too much, and I'm glad that we're bringing attention to it through this challenge, and I'd like to continue our dialogue to be able to work with agencies as a council to be able to wipe out homelessness throughout the Pajaro Valley in the coming year. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Kaufman Gomez?
We certainly recognize that homelessness in our counties, we're top 5 in the nation on the per capita, and that's not a very good number to be bragging about. And this is one piece of what we're trying to capture and relieve ourselves from with regarding the homelessness situation that we have here in our community, and working together collaboratively with many resources that need to overlap and know what's going on. I don't know what I don't know, but I know that I've started a lot of the conversations with a lot of the agencies that are here that have come presented, and I encourage whatever we can do to work together on this. I know that the component, a housing component, was one that we had discussed as well, in terms of property managers in the community here to have get up to speed with what's going on and to be able to help offer some of those resources, particularly to the veterans, as one of the goals that the city here is looking to adopt today. So I encourage all of us to continue the dialogue and work together on what we can do to achieve and relieve some of that chronic homelessness that we have here. And it isn't the misconception that the homeless came here and brought homelessness to our community. It's a very big misconception. What we have here is over 70%, and I'm probably even light on my statistics, have come here with jobs, and they lost the jobs, and they've already been established in our community and have become homeless. So it isn't something that we have good produce and we have good weather, and therefore we're the ones that have the hub of homelessness. I want to make sure that I'm very clear in terms of educating myself and the community that that's not what we have going on here. We have chronic homelessness from the people that have been born, raised, gone to schools here, had jobs here, and have established themselves in this community, and that's what we really need to work together with remediating a lot of this problem that we have here, and hopefully with seeing HUD here, that we also see that coming from Fed to help us and work together with our community and make some success happen with those families. Thank you.
Councilmember Montesino?
I just want to echo those sentiments from the public that said, if we can't help those people that put their lives at risk for all of us, who can we help? So I just want to put my best efforts in, and I'm going to vote in favor. Thank you.
And I just wanted to thank once again the 180-2020 initiative, the Pajaro Valley Shelter Services, for bringing this challenge to us. It's an important one. And I am also looking forward to December 2015, where we can say that we have ended this very significant and tragic incidents of homelessness that people are experiencing, that our veterans are experiencing. So we're ready for a vote.
Kaufman Gomez,
Yes.
Dodge,
Yes.
Hurst,
Yes.
Montesino,
Yes.
Cervantes.
Yes, motion carries unanimously. Thank you again for being here this evening.
Thank you.
And thank you all so much for your patience here on this side of the room. I know that we have a lot of high school students with us this evening, and we are going to have a public hearing about our city code regarding the definition of smoking and its relevance to e-cigarettes.
5.2.
That's right, 5.2. A few more minutes. I did forget item 5.2, which is our ordinance amending Title I and around election procedures to fill a council vacancy. And you had some questions, Councilmember Hurst?
Thank you very much, Mayor. Yes, was this is the final adoption. Was the first reading the meeting that I happened to miss?
Yes.
Well, that probably explains some of my lack of awareness here. There was some wording in here, and I just couldn't quite figure out what it really meant. And I'll refer you to section 1-6.03, and it says A, not earlier than the night. This is about. This prohibits appointments. Am I correct?
Yes.
It says not earlier than the 90th, nor later than the 85th day. What does that mean? Not earlier than the 90th, nor later than the 85th.
If you remember that measure requires that the council, that a person that an election is called 90, well, that a person has to be elected within 90 days from the vacancy. So this is saying that not earlier than 90 days because we don't know that there's a vacancy, and not later than 85 days because we're giving, because that's what the time that I'm going to publish the notice. So I'm supposed to publish the notice. If it happens, if the vacancy happens on a Saturday, then I have 5 days to publish a notice of the election, that there's a vacancy and that there's an election to be called.
That just became more confusing.
Everybody's following that, right?
That just became more confusing.
Yeah.
So I have 5 days to publish a notice that there's going to be an election.
So it's a 5-day window.
Yes. And we did it that way, so if the vacancy happens on a Saturday and I have time to send the notice to the paper needs about 2 days to publish the notice. That's why we did it that way. So that it doesn't mean that I have to publish the notice right away on the 90th day, because I won't be able to do it.
Right. Well, you know, the paper doesn't publish every day either.
Yes, exactly.
I got another question here. Going down the page a little bit to item 3, and it says that if only one person is nominated for such vacant office, the nominated person shall qualify and take office at the next available council meeting. Nominated person shall serve the remaining portion of the unexpired term of the vacant council district. So what's different about that than what we currently do, where we appoint someone and they finish the term of someone?
Okay, so this says that the notice has to have that language. So if there's only one person that submitted nomination papers, then you don't need to have an election. That's what that's saying. That person, if only one person submitted nomination papers, then you don't have to have an election because only one person submitted nomination papers to run for office.
There's no contest.
So if there's only one applicant for an appointment, how is that different than what's being proposed?
Well, it's not an appointment.
If there was an appointment. I'll take my case, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Please do.
My council representative resigned.
Yes.
There was a process in which appointments were considered. So in going through that and having been appointed for the remainder of the person who resigns term, how is that different from this proposal?
There couldn't be an election. In your case, there was an appointment. The council appointed you. In this case, because there's no other person running for election, that person will become the elected person.
Kind of sounds like a
appointment.
The
council
appointment.
the council would not be taking action on the appointment.
Well, I guess that's one of my concerns here, that we could be like 100 days without a representative, 90, you know, taking 90 days, and then it would take another 2 weeks or 10 days
No,
for the...
This person could fill the office at the next regular council meeting, not within 90 days.
Without an election and
Without an election.
without any process, somebody can just walk automatically.
Well,
be
they
there as
could
soon as
they could go and take, gather signatures, the 30, 20, and 20 to qualify. So they could go out and get 30 signatures.
Okay,
And they
okay,
could
so
fill
somebody
out
can
the
get, somebody
paper.
can gather for 30 signatures and nobody else applies, and then they could be seating within 30 days. What was that?
Possibly.
Or it could be a lot longer.
No.
Well, if there were multiple,
Oh, yes, if there were multiple, then you would have an election within 90 days.
and then they would be 2 weeks after that, the election, they would be seated as a council member?
Well, when the results came back.
They'd have
But
to
if- yeah,
verify
but
the
the-
election.
but
Yes.
the
So
holiday, but
so
that
it
doesn't
could
hap-
really stretch out to 100 days, 120 days, maybe even longer.
Yes.
Without any representation,
Yes.
the constituents wouldn't have any.
Yes.
Well, I'm not sure that's a good idea.
But that's not what this ordinance is doing. We're just trying to have a process because what the voters voted on, it's not having the ability to make an appointment and the election to be done within 90 days.
Have we had some great big problem with appointees that I'm unaware of? I mean, we've had a number of people appointed, haven't we, over the years?
Yes.
Dr. Bilicich was appointed, correct?
Yes.
Well, remind me, who else was appointed?
You.
Well, thank you. I remember that, too. But who else?
There were a few,
I
Doreen
think that-
Nielsen, Bobita, quite a few in the past.
Well, there have been a number of appointees, and I don't remember any great big problem with the appointees. They finish out the term, and then they run for election.
Unopposed then on occasion,
But
too.
this was an issue of trying to work within the confines of that voter-approved initiative, and so that's what we're sort of trying to figure out here in structure. And so there is a very short window of flexibility that the city had. One was in terms of, noticing the vacancy, and then the other was also setting a very short window for the nomination process and people to be able to gather their signatures and be able to run for the office. So that's the issue that's before us. Did you have any other questions about the
Well,
procedure?
I just find it, it's not really in the best interest of the public to conduct it this way. I think it's, it's a backlash by some disgruntled folks, and those that really benefit out of this are going to be the election consultants who will profit, and who's going to be hurt by this are the candidates who will have to pay more, and the public who's going to have to pay for an election that's really not necessary. So let's move forward, and I'll just vote no.
Okay, so Councilmember Montesino, any questions on it?
Well, just hearing the conversation brought a question, what if nobody applies? What if you don't have someone apply within those 90 days?
It's actually 10 days,
10
right?
days.
10 days.
5 days, it looks like.
Yeah, so what happens?
Mhm.
Tell me what happens?
My hunch would be there would be a vacancy until the next general election.
Not everybody wants to do this job, you know. And there's good, and there's good
I
reason.
can't imagine why.
There's good reason that people don't want to do this job. You know, the financial disclosure, the public scrutiny you get, the time it
Come
takes
away
away
from
from
home.
family and job.
It's an attempt. This is an attempt to fit a process that takes longer than the elections process under state law into the elections process. It's impossible to comply with the typical election procedure under this charter amendment. So the city clerk is trying to do the best she can to establish a process now so there's as few questions as possible in the future.
Yes. I was just trying to make sure that I have a process to follow in case there's a vacancy, and this is the best that we could do, because in their petition, they only have 90 days, that's it. It doesn't say at an established election date, nothing like that. It could happen that we're having 2 elections in the same month, but because it doesn't give us the flexibility of the 90 days, it says not more than 90 days. So we have to do something within those 90 days.
One last question, Councilmember Dodge, and then we'll open it up for public comment.
Did I get the 7 like Lowell or just one? One. So do we address could you remind me of the issues that we addressed with an absentee ballot and how we decided to be able to go to having an election with polling places?
Yes, you remove that section where we had recommended to have an all-mail ballot. You remove that section, that this current ordinance does not have that section.
Great, I wanted to.
It'll be a polling place ballot.
Because I see the potential for disenfranchising voters on this expedited schedule, and it concerns me. I'm doing my best to get reelected, but I'll try my best not to die in office either, so that there's a vacancy in my district. But that being said, I'm concerned about the potential to disenfranchise voters and what kind of remedies that we'll be able to address. How will we address any remedies that the expedited schedule could bring? Could this be challenged?
The only thing that we actually eliminated days is in the nomination period. Instead of having the 30 days that a candidate has to submit nomination papers, they only have 10 days. Everything else, we left it alone.
So you could have 2 or 3 candidates pull papers, but if only one candidate has insufficient signatures, then that's the only candidate,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Then they would automatically be appointed. I mean, they would be elected, or whatever the title is.
They would fill the office, yes.
Thank you.
Are there any members of the public wishing to address us on this issue? Come on up.
Hi, once again, my name's Eddie. I'm not sure if it's addressed or anything, but my question is, you guys say that right now you guys appoint someone or something like that, and Mr. Montesino's question is, was like, what if no one signs up? Could that possibly be the last resort to, since no one signed up, to appoint? Can that be part of the ordinance, or I don't know if it's addressed in the ordinance or not? So, what's my question?
The author of the
No, there is no option for the council to appoint in the
Well-
case of vacancy with this new initiative.
Well, the ordinance does not address that. We could go back to the election code, and the elections code does have a provision that the council could appoint,
Reversion.
if that's what the council wanted.
Thank you.
Thanks. That's some new research. Any other members of the public wishing to address us on this issue? Seeing none, we'll return it to council for additional discussion or appropriate motion.
I motion that we move forward with second on that ordinance.
And I'll provide the second. So Councilmember Kaufman Gomez and a second by myself to finalize the ordinance amending Title I of our municipal code. Any discussion on the motion? Councilmember Hurst?
I would recommend the council not approve this motion. I think this is one of those things that we'll regret later on, that's going to cost the public, and we're not going to get good service out of this. And so just say no.
I think also to clarify, we're not approving the initiative, we're approving the process and procedure to go along with the initiative that's been voter approved. We've all indicated our concerns about this at the last meeting and throughout the whole process. It is one that is rushed. It is one that's going to require People already kind of hooked in and connected to the political process to sort of figure out the shorter timelines. We've expressed concern that that doesn't allow more open and accessible government unless you're in the know. And then it's very limiting, very restrictive. It does close the process to more people. And one of the things that we were able to adjust for last time was that a proposal was to, cut costs, because another concern that we raised during this discussion was that in order to pay for special elections, that money comes out of the general fund, which helps to pay for public safety and also parks and neighborhood services. And so that was the reason why the appointment process was so urgent and necessary to save on those costs. We no longer have that option. So it is going to cost us additional monies to run a special election, but we also have to ensure that there's a polling place available. So just the option of just having mail-in ballots was not sufficient for us last time. We wanted to also be able to ensure that people had access to the polling place, because if we're limiting their opportunity to run and nominate themselves for office and have their neighbors nominate them for office, then we did need to assure that they had the opportunity to get to a polling place and that people could vote for whoever nominated themselves within that 10-day period. Okay. Councilmember Dodge?
Real briefly, Madam Mayor, I raised a lot of questions. This is the second reading of an ordinance, and while I objected to a lot of things that were the first that we've adjusted through a variety of discussion, I too agree that this limits the numbers of candidates that will be able to participate in the process. Somebody that already has money in the bank, so to speak, and is ready to go, will have definitely the heads up on some of these things. So while I don't want to debate any further this evening, and I believe that we had a great deal of discussion about how we feel about how this is going to be able to limit certain options, and we're challenged with not having any options to be able to provide. I think that I will be voting for this motion to move it along, but I really do think that in the long run, the shortcomings are going to be able to come up, and it'll be very apparent that this was rushed through, not thought through, and will actually eliminate the pool of people that will participate in the democratic process.
Mayor, the only thing I want to say is that without this ordinance, in case of a vacancy, then it would be less time for a person coming to submit nomination papers, because we would have to have the council have a special council meeting, order the election. It would just take a lot more time at the beginning of the process. And what this is trying to do is allow me to do certain things so that that candidate has more time to file their nomination papers. Otherwise, it could be really hard to hold the election within the 90 days that is required by the measure that was approved by the voters.
Last comment, go ahead, Councilmember Montesino, and then Councilmember Kaufman-Gomez.
Yeah, although I have great concerns about, the futuristic of this issue moving forward. But Madam Mayor, you put it very eloquently. I think we got to move forward, and we got to move with a process. So reporting in favor of it.
Councilmember Kaufman-Gomez.
I concur too that it is a process that the voters brought before us, and what you're doing your best with on what limited policy that you've got in your hands is to be as resourceful and as streamlined as you possibly can make of it. Until we actually go through this experience as a one or a second time, we're really not going to know if there's anything else that we need to make of this to make any corrections or revisions, because we're still based on some hypotheticals when this comes forward. So moving it forward, if we have to ever experience this in the near future, we'll work the bugs out, and that's what it will take.
We're ready for a vote.
Kaufman-Gomez?
Yes.
Dodge?
Yes.
First?
I'll vote no.
Montesino?
Yes.
Cervantes.
Yes. So we've moved forward on the final adoption of Title I in our municipal code. Okay, this was supposed to be a short meeting, but
Really
here we
was.
are.
Well,
Yes, item
I
6.1.
Thought we were gonna-
Revisiting and amending our definition of smoking to capture electronic smoking devices, and also adding a definition of smoke. And we do have a staff report today by Lieutenant Zamora. Welcome. And somebody should write your teacher's notes and say that you were here.
I signed great notes.
We have a former teacher. I'm sure we can get that handled.
Then you
Not
could,
signing anything.
So while some folks, while that's being set up, we do need to take a 5-minute break, just to sort of honor people's work. So we'll take a quick 5-minute break. 5 minutes is quick. All right, so I think we're ready for item 6.1.
Little stuff like that that's in the paper, it's like Smallville.
We're going to define smoke tonight. Did I hear that correctly? That we've got a definition?
There is a working definition
There is?
in our packet.
They tell me where there's smoke, there's fire.
Or vape nowadays.
And that's when we have the chief to put them out. All right, all set?
All set.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening. Buenas noches, Madam Mayor, Council. Not long ago, Andrea Silva Solano, who's sitting right behind me, who works for the community or the County of Santa Cruz Health Services Agency, and Gina Cole from PVPSA, presented a comprehensive report to Council on e-cigarettes. And this evening, I hope to build on that presentation and use it as a springboard to modify the current smoking ordinance to capture e-cigarettes and the definition of smoke. So it is well understood that cigarette smoke and nicotine are highly addictive and are responsible for many health problems. Electronic cigarettes pose unknown health risks and are increasingly popular among minors and undermine the smoke-free ordinance. So what are e-cigarettes? E-cigarettes are non-flammable battery-powered devices which allow the user to inhale vapor or water vapor without producing fire, smoke, or carbon monoxide. They are designed to resemble traditional cigarettes and may contain nicotine, flavors, and other chemicals, and are typically marketed and packaged to appeal to youth and adults looking to quit their nicotine habit. And as you can see, the maple pancakes and the vanilla flavors up here are strategically aimed at youth. So e-cigarettes employ the use of cartridges generally containing nicotine to deliver vapors to the user. Some of these devices can be refilled with liquid nicotine solution and other substances. E-cigarettes are currently unregulated by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Little is known about the long-term effects of e-cigarettes. So nicotine addiction among youth. According to the Center for Disease Control, the percentage of high school students who have ever used e-cigarettes more than doubled from 4.7% to 10% between 2011 and 2012. The FDA, U.S. Health and Lung Association, and other public health organizations are concerned E-cigarettes can increase nicotine addiction among youth, among youth, and may lead youth to try other tobacco products, including conventional cigarettes. So public places, in addition to the health risks associated with these products, there is a concern that the use of e-cigarettes in public places where conventional smoking is currently prohibited could increase the acceptance of smoking and trigger a relapse for those who are trying to quit smoking. This also makes it difficult to enforce current or existing smoking laws. And what does our current law say? Currently in California, the law prohibits the sale of e-cigarettes to minors, but it does not regulate e-cigarettes or where e-cigarettes can be used. The current Watsonville Municipal Code prohibits smoking in public places, including parks, retail stores, restaurants, and city buildings, but it does not address the use of e-cigarettes or similar devices. So what does this mean? It means that you could be at a grocery store shopping with your family and somebody could be using this right next to you, and we would not be able to enforce any law at this point. As of October 2013, over 100 municipalities across the nation have passed prohibitions against e-cigarettes. Over 50 cities and counties in California have enacted bans. And on March 25th, 2014, the city of Santa Cruz prohibited e-cigarettes, and on April 2nd, the city of Scotts Valley followed suit and amended their code to include e-cigarettes in their definition of smoking. So the proposed changes, given the list of concerns outlined, it is recommended that the City Council amend the Watsonville Municipal Code 5-37.04 to capture e-cigarettes and the definition of smoking. This would prohibit the use of e-cigarettes in the same locations where traditional cigarettes are currently prohibited. Additionally, it is recommended that the definition of smoke also be added to the current smoking control code. So smoke defined, it's a very lengthy definition, but the Reader's Digest version of it is smoke includes, but is not limited to, tobacco smoke, electronic smoking device vapors, marijuana smoke, and crack cocaine smoke. And that concludes my presentation on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the council? Councilmember Kaufman Gomez and then Councilmember Montesino.
Now, I know that we are now putting in the ordinance the definition of smoke. Are we making any suggestions about the location for some of these items of merchandise? Because you need to be 18 and older. And we've taken a field trip to take a look at a facility that was selling some of the products. And my understanding was behind the shelf, because they're 18 and older. Do we have something in place already with the ordinance? So as we put smoke, the implication is that this type of device follows the same rule, and we have that rule already as well, that they have to be behind the counter for many of the things that have to be 18 and older?
Sure. So it's my understanding that those products should be vendor assisted, and that they're not to be placed in front of the register so that they could be reached by somebody who's 18 years or 18 years or younger.
So we need to make sure that the vendors are very clear on the rule that it needs to be behind in terms of the assisted to do the purchase, and that they need ID to be checked.
Yes.
And stickers or labels or something in terms of the age ordinance that goes along with this in terms of the purchase and the age for somebody to be able to purchase?
Yes, and I think part of the of what's been taking place with some of the partners from the county and from PVPSA is the education component, and I'm not too sure to what degree that's been done. I know that they've been very active, but if council would like me to go research that and come back and report, I can certainly do that.
I just want to be as proactive as we can and be consistent with the rules. If we need them out there, if we need the enforcement out there, that we have the resources to be able to do that. I think that we're missing a little bit of that, and I really want to make sure if we're going to revisit what's going on with the ordinance itself, then those items should be addressed as well. Because again, that's signage as well as another factor. that we have a consistent, that I know that we're defining smoke as part of this ordinance, but the signage as well, and making sure that this signage is consistent with whatever our ordinances would be with any other smoking products.
Sure, and I agree with you. Those are all very important topics that need to be addressed. But I think that at this point, to really gain some more traction, to defining smoke and including e-cigarettes to our current ordinance can really help that effort.
Thank you.
So I concur with Councilmember Kaufman Gomez. Those are some key issues, but I also have another question. So, do we have the liberty or maybe to just ban them? Because I think it's a detriment to our community to have those kind of labels catered to very young individuals, including young kids under the age of 18, with the names of cupcakes and pancakes and all the, I know last time they brought in samples of all these like candies and all that stuff. Is there a way that we can ban them altogether from our retailers selling them in our city?
Sure. Yeah, I'm not too sure if we can ban the entire use of them. I can certainly resource that for you. It's difficult to look at those images and realize that companies are actually doing that. But again, these companies are not regulated, and the product itself is not regulated either. So I think this is putting us ahead of the curve of some of the issues that may occur later. But very, very important topic.
Thank you very much for all the work you do in our community and the variety of things that you present to this council. I too would like to take a moment to thank the members of the Pajaro Valley Prevention Student Assistance that I've met with to be able to learn how to address this issue early on. I'm certainly supportive of. There was enough dialogue on tobacco products and their use in our community. So I guess my question pertains to how do we define smoke, and what's the enforcement on that? Because not only was it just addressed with the vapor smoke, there was also some other definitions were added in. And where are we looking at that? What other jurisdictions are you aware of that have adopted ordinances pertaining to involving the definition of smoke? I just think it could be challenged, and I'm just sort of asking ahead to be able to be aware of that.
Sure. So the city of Santa Cruz, as I mentioned, has used it. The city of Scotts Valley, I know throughout the state, I believe, I don't recall the number, but there's a number of cities who are using the same definition as a template. And it seems to be working. So I think that definition really covers a large range of what it is that we need to deal with here.
In the devices, you stated that there was not really regulation of the sale of those devices. When we charge for a tobacco licensing fee within the city, that fee does not apply to people that sell the electronic e-cigarette devices?
That's a good question.
That's why I want to ask it.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I don't have any answer to that question, but I think that those are all issues that, again, are coming to the surface with this whole fad. And again, I'd be more than happy to look at those issues.
Well, the reason I asked that is because there's quite a dialogue on charging fees for tobacco licensing. But yet it's like the e-cigarettes fall through the cracks on all of it. So if we're applying definitions that relate to tobacco regulation, can we or are we able to apply the same regulations to have a sense of uniformity?
Sure. And again, I don't have the background.
Right. I'm just
behind it, but I think
a future question. But I want to have a sense of uniformity in the way that we apply. We've already set up guidelines to deal with tobacco products, and we're identifying smoke as a result of tobacco products. And I'd like to see us define e-cigarettes in the same terms,
Sure.
if you will, for enforcement-wise or whatever.
Yeah, and part of it, the not being regulated, also has to do with what goes into the product. And that in itself can pose some dangers to the person consuming it.
Well, right, and I would assume that some shops that sell vaporizers for that are used with cannabis and other substances. Well, maybe I'll stop my questions at that particular point.
Yes, did you want to add something,
Yes,
Deputy
just a
Chief?
little bit of clarification. Good evening, council and public. I'm Deputy Chief McCartney from the Police Department, and the presentation that Lieutenant Zamora has given is specifically more for the smoking, more for the purchaser of these products, for the person who smoked the product and dealing with the public places where they're smoked at. And these are all excellent questions. And so the second part of this that we'll have to come back to council with will be the vendor. How do we approach the vendor part of this equation? And that's part of the tobacco retail license fee that you had mentioned.
Thank you.
And I think that at later sessions, we can take a look at how we approach the vendors and regulate these type of devices.
Well, and I agree, because I know why some people are worried about hamburgers in the community. I'm more worried about tobacco and alcohol and how the accessibility issues that we've heard a community group come earlier to address with us, and now pertaining to e-cigarettes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can he say that?
Yeah, you can say that.
Love you, brother.
Ditto.
Wait.
Any other questions? Councilmember Hurst?
I don't disagree with anything that's been proposed here, but I'm wondering how we're going to answer that question by the public saying, look, this is not hurting anybody but the user. Why are you trying to overregulate us? And you know, the standard questions that come up about freedom of choice and all that stuff. What are we going to say to those folks?
I think we'll hear some of those responses from the public comments, I believe. And if we don't, then we can revisit the question. Any other questions? No? All right, seeing none, we'll open up the public hearing. So if there's members of the public wishing to address us on this issue, again, thank you for your patience. You can just approach the microphone, state your name, also the district and/or the city where you live.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Council members. My name is Lorena Ramos. I'm a health educator at the County of Santa Cruz Health Services Agency and staff to the Santa Cruz County Tobacco Education Coalition. And I've presented you guys with a information packet on the inclusion of electronic cigarettes to local policies. Tonight, what I would like to do is share a few of the latest statistics and study results on electronic cigarettes and youth, just to put the issue a little bit in perspective before some of our local youth share their experiences. So the first study from UC San Francisco found that the use of electronic cigarettes is associated with higher odds of cigarette smoking by adolescents. A CDC study found that between 2011 and 2012, the percentage of all youth in grades 6 to 12 who had tried electronic smoking devices doubled. According to the 2012 National Youth Tobacco Survey, 1 in 3 students perceive e-cigarettes as being less harmful than conventional cigarettes, and these students were more likely to use e-cigarettes. Now, after listening to these results and numbers, consider the following. A 2014 study reported that a comprehensive internet search from May 2012 to January 2014 resulted in 466 brands of e-cigarettes and 7,764 unique flavors such as fruit and candy. In 2013, $82.1 million were spent on e-cigarette advertisement across all media channels. And all major tobacco companies now make e-cigarettes, and in less than 10 years, Big Tobacco will sell the majority of e-cigarettes in the United States. This data sheds light on the impact of electronic cigarettes on youth and how this population is being targeted as consumers of these products. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello and good evening, Watsonville City Council members. My name is Aaron Gaxiola. Today, I would like to speak to you as a Watsonville resident and a member of Santa Cruz County Friday Night Live, as well as a senior from Watsonville High School. For me, it is very important that electronic nicotine delivery devices, or vapes, are included to existing non-smoking policy because of the health concerns with secondhand smoke, especially people with asthma, such as myself. I know that electronic smoking devices affect youth because many youth are not educated on e-cigarettes. E-cigarettes target youth and leads to early onset age with flavored and flashy products. Please keep these points in mind when deciding to vote. Youth in the city of Watsonville count on you to help our city, or help keep our city healthy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, City Council members of Watsonville. My name is Jesus Carreño, and I am a part of a group program called Muévelo. I am also a student at Watsonville High and a student at Youth Now. I am against vapes or hookup pens and other smoking electronics because it's an addiction to all students and it can be bad if used too much. I see them using electronic smoking devices in class and it distracts them from learning, and me. That is why it's important not to permit this.
Really?
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening to all the Watsonville City Councils and to all the that are here. My name is Gabriel Gonzalez. Today I would like to speak as a youth of Watsonville and participant of Youth Now and president of Muévelo. For me, it is very important that electronic devices are included to existing no smoking policy. Because because this is a starting point of youth to smoke, and the appearance of the vapes are attract youth to smoke because they think it's cool. Other youth in school tried to convince me to smoke the vapes. The youth that I know use vapes because they think that they are smoking a real cigarette that are not harmful. Vapes are like giving a gun and a bullet to a kid and let him play with them. Through Muévelo, which is a leadership group, we will do our part to encourage other youth to do a better decision. Please keep all this point in mind when you decide on your vote. Youth in the city of Watsonville counts on you to keep our city healthy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, City Council. My name is Fernando Lopez, and I am a participant of Youth Now, and I am a part of Muévelo, and I don't like seeing people use those smoking devices, and I'm against that.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Caleb, and I work with Santa Cruz County Friday Night Live. And when I was young and learned that smoking cigarettes in public places was prohibited by law, I thought that e-cigarettes applied to that law too. But when I learned, like I think a couple months ago, that they were not under that same law, I was a bit confused because in my mind, an e-cigarette is still a cigarette. And when you smoke an e-cigarette, you're still making that same sort of gesture like you're actually smoking a regular cigarette. So and an e-cigarette still contains nicotine. And so I am just a bit confused as to why e-cigarettes were not in that same category. That is all.
Thank you.
Good evening again. My name is Gina Cole, and I live here in Watsonville. I work for Pajaro Valley Prevention and Student Assistance, and I'm in awe of these young people that just got up and expressed their opinions, and very passionately, on a number of different topics and a number of different reasons why we encourage you to push this policy, and to extend the policy that we now have. I have, as a Watsonville resident, witnessed somebody step out of a courtroom and smoke their e-cigarette downstairs, I guess, in the courthouse. And when I said, hey, you can't do that in here, nobody moved. I had to go to a person behind the glass to say, hey, somebody is smoking in here, and I don't believe that's allowed. And when the sheriff's department came up, the guy's like, well, show me the ordinance. Yeah. So, and then when they explained that, oh, you're not allowed to smoke in here, he went into the bathroom and came out and watched me and put it back in his pocket just to prove a point. So I see that, and we need that protection for the rest of our students and the rest of our community members. We don't know all of the implications of the smoke that comes out of those vape pens. We just don't. Our federal backers a year ago were supposed to come up with some definitive decision. Yes, it's dangerous. It's dangerous because of this. Again and again and again, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. We're researching it. We're looking at it. We're investigating it. We're waiting for the university studies and the medical studies and the CDC studies, and they're not here yet. You have the opportunity to make the first step, along with Santa Cruz and Scotts Valley, to start the conversation. Whether or not it goes further to the vendors, that's down the road. I think that's definitely somewhere where we have to, your point about making sure everything is behind the counter, because I'm sure on your field trip you saw things that were sitting on the counter. They might have been in a locked case. It might not have even been a locked case. So there's definitely issues there. I understand the issue of enforcement is difficult. If it doesn't fall under that, the tobacco retail licensing, it's difficult to enforce. But it's an important step forward to accept this definition of smoke, and stand behind it. And stand behind these youth that were brave and stood up and expressed themselves tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, I'm here to represent, my name is Ryan Runge, by the way. I'm here to represent the Caprillo College Peers Club. Our mission is to address the physical and mental health concerns of our student body, and as part of that, I wanted to show up and support and validate all of the claims. It's a very real issue, and I've also witnessed students smoking inside and out of the classroom. And this really provides a negative image for people who are trying to quit. Come January 1st, we will be banning smoke on campus, but for people who are trying to quit, they have this image, they have this trigger to fall back on their old addiction. and it is very difficult to help a student quit when they see this every day.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Andrea Silva Solano. I'm a health educator, and I'm also one of the staff people to the Santa Cruz County Tobacco Education Coalition. The coalition is a group of individuals and member agencies that are committed to tobacco prevention, tobacco control locally. So on their behalf tonight, I wanted to share that recently a statewide survey, the Healthy Stores for a Healthy Community survey, revealed that the number of stores selling e-cigarettes has quadrupled in just 2 years. So they went from 11% in 2010 to about 45% in 2013. So definitely there's a dramatic rise in the popularity of these products. Despite that, though, there's still very little known about their actual health risks or their impact on cessation efforts. There currently is no scientific evidence to support the safe use of e-cigarettes, nor is there evidence that they're an effective cessation tool. So including these products into current no-smoking policies would not ban their use overall. It would just regulate them in the same manner as traditional tobacco products. And there are many reasons to do that. One, e-cigarettes threaten to undermine current no-smoking policies because at first glance it's really difficult to tell the difference between an e-cigarette and a traditional cigarette, and so that would create enforcement challenges. Two, allowing their use where traditional cigarettes are not allowed also increases the likelihood of renormalizing cigarettes and really setting us back decades in tobacco control and undoing years of hard work. And lastly, over 60 communities, the number keeps on increasing because communities across the state are updating their policies regularly. So I think now it's up to over 60 communities across California have already updated their no smoking policies. And there was a packet that I think Lorena distributed. It's a black one. There was a question before about the list of current communities. There's a matrix in there. And at minimum, communities are changing the definition or updating the definition of smoke, but they are doing other things to regulate the products, whether it's creating moratoriums on vape shops or banning the use of them altogether, or the ban of use of flavors. So communities across the state are doing different things, but at minimum, they're including them in the current no smoking policies. So you can look at that packet, and there's other resources in there that Lorena included, including some other letters that didn't make it into the staff report from local agencies. So thank you very much for your commitment to public health and safety.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. If there's any other members of the public wishing to address us on this issue, now's your opportunity. Seeing no one else coming to the microphone, I will close the public hearing and return this to council for additional discussion. Councilmember Montesino.
I'd like to move staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Okay, so motion to move forward with staff's recommendation and the changes to the ordinance by Councilmember Montesino, and a second by Councilmember Kaufman Gomez. Councilmember Montesino speaking to the motion.
Yeah, and I'm also really interested in the vendor portion of it. Like I said, I would really be in favor of gathering that information about what latitude we have, whether it be a banner, how we put it on back of the counter, some more restrictions on it. So thank you.
Councilmember Kaufman Gomez.
You know, it's amazing that we have to go through an FDA process for proven cancer medication to save somebody's life. Yet, when it comes to something as accessible as this, without any research and any studies really done clinically about this, we have this in the hands of our youth. And it is the new trigger that's out there in terms of what's fancy to keep in your your hands, the whole candy enticement of it all. When we have been working productively with the tobacco tax funds for the educational process, and the question about the tax on this would supplement what we're doing on the tobacco tax funds as it is now. Because what you're finding is you're going to end up with the extinct population of those that do have the tobacco because of the cost of the tobacco themselves, that we're weaning off of that and going to other products. I can attest to that, my father's smoking was more in cigarettes than it was in his mortgage payment. And the fiscal impact was tremendous because of the cost of the tax on the tobacco. So I have a very heavy background with regards to this and my opinion on this. Having said that, we are touching the surface, just a smoky surface at this point for this this issue, and I know that we can do more, and I know that I'd like to see us have more dialogue to do so, and that would include making sure we have things that are well safe and put back for the shelves, good labeling that we need to do in terms of showing people that this is what the rule is in town here and what we want to enforce, and being able to have what we need to do to restrict it for those that are still minors, that are not making sound choices, and making sure that they're old enough to make that choice of their own if they choose to do so. And I also think that this is an open policy here, that while it's tobacco, it's going to be something else. And we really need to do what we can to be proactive when we start to see some of those other changes with other things that are going to substitute the tobacco into some of these type of products that are in the marketplace now. So I do encourage continuing talking about this, and I do support this ordinance change.
Councilmember Dodge?
Again, I would like to thank the young people for coming and speak with us this evening. I'm watching you grow in your public speaking skills, and just it takes a lot of courage to come up to the mic. That being said, I was asking questions pertaining to licensing fees because I believe that, or I guess my opinion is that the way that we've learned how to regulate tobacco, and it's caused a dramatic decrease, and just from what I can see in the community, is a way that I would like to continue exploring this conversation further. I'm not so much about banning behavior, particularly because my religion's the only religion that's been banned by the history of the United States. So I'm not so in banning behavior, but that's what I believe. And I want to commend the health educators in our community, for that's what it takes, is education to be able to have people make sound decisions and choices in their lives. But from the aspect of the way we've looked to regulate tobacco in our community, I think it's a fine example in the direction that we should be going. And at this point, so I'd like to see, and that would actually discourage some people too. You know, it discouraged the sales of mom and pop's cigarette shops, which used to proliferate in certain areas, and they're not anymore. So I think I'm supportive of this motion this evening. I'd like to see us come back. Well, I'd like to see me come back, but I'd like to see us come back in a few months to be able to look at what licensing fees and other kind of regulations that we could in place with that fee, maybe going to some sort of prevention activities through our Parks and Recreation Department, our Parks and Community Services Department, something to that effect, if we can look at that later on. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Hurst?
Thank you, Mayor. I too think that this device, this mechanism, shouldn't be escaping the regulations and the tax and other fees and control that exists currently. We shouldn't make an exception, or we should close that loophole, rather. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I did also want to just thank all of you for staying until very late on a school night to come and educate us about this issue. I think in sharing your experiences, a lot of us, you heard a gasp from the City Council when you told us what's happening in your classrooms. That's not an experience many of us have anymore, so it's really important to sort of hear what it is that you're seeing and the impact of the sale of electronic cigarettes that's having on your educational experiences, and also out in the community, and describing what you saw happen in the courthouse as well. and sort of our various options, bringing this forward to us. What are our options as a community, as a council, to be more responsive and to be able to enhance health in our community for all of our residents, young people and older alike. So I did just want to thank you for taking the time to bring all of this to us this evening. It sounds like, you know, there is a motion here addressing this little bit around smoking and, you know, being able to enhance our options to enforce and cut down on use of electronic cigarettes, asking people to move, and citations possibly for smoking in places where it's prohibited. So I am also supportive of the motion, and it does sound like this is the start of a much longer conversation to continue to explore our options relating to electronic cigarettes. So with that, we can call the vote.
Kaufman Gomez,
Yes.
Dodge,
Yes.
Hurst,
Yes.
Montesino,
Yes.
Cervantes.
Yes. So motion carries unanimously. Thank you all.
Madam Mayor, can I just ask a question that just popped in my head real quick?
Sure.
In hearing this, those stories from the classroom and the students, are you guys working with the school district to also ban them in the school premises?
Let all of us know.
The school board is also working on their policy as well, their tobacco policy as well, to include, and I don't know if it's been set yet or if it's been decided on, but I know that PVPSA is working with the Board of Education, our trustees, to come up with something that will amend that policy so that
Thank
they
you.
won't be allowed on campuses as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Yeah.
So next we have a consideration of approval of a 3-year lease at the airport.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Maria Esther Rodriguez, Assistant Director of Public Works. Indeed, the item before you is a proposed lease for the restaurant at the airport. I want to take you through a little background on how we got here. Back in April, the restaurant that was there, Props, closed. And shortly thereafter, we began the process to inventory the property and go through and see what the area needed in May. In June, we conducted a little bit more research to make sure that we were going to conduct a request for proposal to bring in a restaurant that fit the needs of the airport and in the city. We contacted Central Coast Small Business Development Center, who recommended a consultant that we dealt with in moving forward to, again, find the right fit for our restaurant there at the airport. So the search initiated in August 2014. That included an application process for folks that were interested in submitting requests for proposals. And then once those applications were reviewed, they were given the proposals. Of all the applications that were sent out, only 2 proposals were submitted, and those proposals were then reviewed and ranked. Comprehensive background checks were performed for the proposers, and then interviews were conducted. So of the 2 proposals that were received, the proposal selected and before you this evening is one for Ella's at the airport, actually by 2 individuals, Tiffany Ella King and Sergio Angeles. Again, doing business excuse me, it's a little late, doing business as Ella's at the airport. The review of their proposal showed that they had a successful local business. They've been here for a number of years. It has good reviews on social media. They also submitted a sound business plan for the airport location and sound projections, which all were very favorable. The proposed lease would indeed be, again, for the property at 100 Aviation Way, the restaurant portion, which includes the 2,400 square feet restaurant, the outdoor patio, and an outside storage. The terms in the negotiated lease are an initial 3-year term for a monthly lease of $2,300. They are also going to provide tenant improvements at their own cost, and the lease would also include an option to renew for an additional 3-year term. The 3-year term would include, the additional 3-year term would allow for an increase to market rate at the time, and also allow for an annual CPI increase annually. So the staff recommends that council approve the 3-year lease with a 3-year option term with Tiffany Ella King and Sergio Angeles doing business as Ella at the airport. And just the logo you see is not official. It's just something that was put together to give the feel of what it might be. And that concludes my report.
Great, thank you. Any questions from City Council? Councilmember Kaufman Gomez?
You mentioned that in 3 years' time it will go to market rate. How far off are we with the CPI or the market rate right now with what we're offering?
Currently, the projections were about $100 below what it would be for market rate.
And that's in exchange for the money that they're basically investing in the business itself?
Correct. All the tenant improvements that they're proposing is, again, funded entirely by them, and so in consideration of that, this would take that into account.
Did we have any repairs or damages from the previous tenant that they're having to incur the cost to do the improvements?
No. In fact, during the proposal time frame, it was indeed being, and people were able to come in and see, but it was actually turnkey. It was fine. What they're proposing is modifications to suit their needs, so, which would include painting, some changes in the kitchen that they want, including a pizza oven, and again, modifications to suit their needs as far as decor, etc.
And signage, I think that the last time the restaurant was there was very limited kind of signage in terms of being able to note it from airport area. Are we going to allow the signage? Is there going to be something negotiated outside of that? Are we going to see some on the entrance going in? Because I know that we have that the sign that's there about the airport itself, and since this is right at the airport, are they going to be getting any of that space for their signage?
There hasn't been specific discussion about the actual sign. The signage location on the building, there is indeed a sign there, and there was there for a restaurant, and that will indeed change. There's also a couple locations as you enter airport and Aviation Way. There's 2 wings essentially that were put up on either side, and that also provides some advertising space for restaurant names and businesses along that roadway. And again, part of her improvements also includes something at the entrance, some landscaping, something to be more inviting. So she's proposing a number of things. However, the actual sign itself has not been discussed at length.
Thank you.
Councilmember Montesino and then Councilmember Dodge.
And like I said, this looks like, I mean, a good proposal now that we have another restaurant coming into the restaurant, so I think it'll be good for that community. But just a comment for staff, I hate to get things late. And this was put on, and then it was yesterday we got a revise. Today we got a revise. Not really good for us and the public to be revising stuff without their notice. So that was just my comment.
If I may.
Councilmember Dodd?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, yes. Did you want to respond?
I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify, the revision was a slight modification in some of the tenant responsibilities, and that was the only modification from the previous, and I apologize for the lateness of that.
Councilmember Dodge?
The liquor license in the bar that was at the previous, that was where did that go?
That is still in their names. However, Ella King and Sergio Angeles have applied for a liquor license. In fact, they have a meeting this Friday, and so they're applying for their own liquor license at the location.
Beer and wine or a full-on type 3, I believe it is.
I believe the full-on beer, wine, and liquor that was served previously.
It was previously?
But I can verify that.
Could you
And-
please?
Sure, and I do want to let you know they were indeed here earlier and intended to be here for this item. However, with their baby, they had to leave, and so that they couldn't stay.
I'm fine with the track record, and I wish they were here for me to be able to tell them. I'm fine with their business model. I'm fine. I believe they're a quality asset to be able to take over this establishment. I was just inquiring about the liquor license that's that's currently been traditional, because I mean I know you could drink safely and get in a plane any time, but I'm concerned about as a passenger, of course. And I'm just concerned about the number of alcohol establishments as we've previously discussed, and I'm just curious about the type of license that they're applying for. Although, as I said, I certainly believe they're a quality asset to the community. And we're talking about signage. Hangar Way is spelled wrong on Airport Boulevard. Thought I'd bring that up.
Okay.
The whole big
I'll
sign.
check it.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Councilmember Kaufman Gomez.
The question I have is, in the past, with the liquor licenses that we've issued, what we've discovered are some of them didn't get everything done on a checklist in terms of the educational component and whatnot. Can we be sure that we have that checklist in play that has everything accounted for that the applicant is responsible for in terms of the training and all of the other factors that go into getting a license issued? Please.
We can certainly let them know that that is a concern, and we'll work as far as we can.
Thank you.
Kaufman, Commissioner, or Councilmember Kaufman Gomez. Sorry.
It's late, I understand.
She did all of
Whatever
those,
works.
yes.
I am able to get up. That's good. So anyway, they will be required to get a city permit for alcohol, and we are working on having that checklist as it's been requested. So we
Thank
will
you.
make sure that we work with everybody to make sure they get those things checked off.
Thank you.
Sure.
See no other questions at this moment. This is the opportunity for members of the public wishing to address us on this issue. You can approach the microphone. Seeing no one, I will return it to council for additional discussion. Councilmember Hurst.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Introduce the ordinance.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Hurst and a second by Councilmember Dodge. Discussion on the motion. Councilmember Hurst.
I think everybody's excited about the opportunity of dining at the restaurant at the airport. It's had a checkered history with Belly Landing, Michael's Bar and Grill, Zuniga's Props. We're optimistic and hopeful that this will really take off, so to speak, and that'll be a high-flying venue that'll attract folks from all the way from Hanford and Harris Ranch and Bishop and who knows where. They'll be flocking here, I hope.
Sleep deprivation makes all of you very funny. Councilmember Dodge.
I wish that they were here this evening. I believe that they're a great business in our community, and I wish them the best of luck in whatever we can do to be able to assist them. That's we spent almost $100,000 in helping the previous on that establishment after it was Zuniga's restaurant to then this next transition. So I believe that sometimes the public is not aware of how much money this council has invested in the airport. And I think that now we're investing in people, and I'm very happy that they're going to take this challenge on. Thank you.
Councilmember Kaufman Gomez.
I too am pleased that we have an alternative restaurant that it does not cater to just the taqueria environment that we have so much of in our community here. It's also nice, and I don't mean to be, one way or the other. We do have some limited choices of what our options are in town, and I'm glad that that's been expanded by offering this here. It's also nice and convenient because I'm just around the corner from this place, and there are very limited choices that are even in that section of town. So having this open with somebody that's reputable in our community here, that's wanting to reinvest in our community to stay here and offer services longer in terms of their hours and arrangements, I'm very supportive of that.
Yes, I mean, your comment about the other small business owners really throws me off because I think we should be supportive. This is one local business owner that's growing and expanding, and it is fantastic that they do offer various healthy options. But I also think that Mexican food, not all of it is the same. There's a lot of regional differences in what's being cooked. So a growth and expansion of one small business owner's business should not be a reason to denigrate other business owners here in the community. But with that, this is an incredible success and should be celebrated. And we're looking forward to continuing to support Ellis. So with that, we shall call the vote.
Kaufman Gomez.
Yes.
Dodge.
Yes.
Hurst.
Yes.
Montesino.
Yes.
Cervantes.
Yes. Motion carries unanimously. So next we have an opportunity to hear about another business making Watsonville their home, and we do have our economic development, Kurt Overmeyer, here with us to present the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name's Kurt Overmeyer. I'm the Economic Development Manager here at the city. And excuse me, in my rough voice, I've been a little under the weather. Here to talk to you a little bit about Head and Home Hats and the building that the city owns at 125 Aviation Way and a new tenant there. So first off, I want to talk about the tenant, and all the pictures are of various things that Head and Home makes. The building was built for Caltube Labs. It's about 20 years old. The space has been vacant since 2012, and it was a highly customized space that has a whole lot of electricity and a lot of plumbing and some other special considerations, and it's also broken up into a lot of kind of small rooms. Well, as it turns out, that makes it difficult to split up and difficult to lease, but we have been able to find a tenant that can make this space work, so we're excited to have them come in and take over about 15,020 square feet for 5 years with a 5-year option. Still leaves us with just a little bit under 39,000 square feet available. We're working on a tenant for that as well, but they're not ready to move forward, and we're not ready to announce them yet. So this lease, we've already discussed all the business terms in closed session. It's a market rate lease. It's nothing special. Councilmember Montesino, I know you're going to pick on me about getting this to you late, and I just want you to know the airport, the FAA requires that we do some things, and it was really, really hard to get all of that put into a lease and to get the business terms right. So we apologize for getting here late. So I want to talk a little bit about the company. The company has 30 employees. We found out that they were expanding and looking to relocate. I guess that was in June or July. Gave them a call. We searched all over Watsonville to try to find a space. This was the only space that they could make work in the entire city. They were actively being recruited by the state of Oklahoma that offered them a whole bunch of subsidies. Of course, they didn't want to leave this beautiful area, and since we were able to find something that worked for them, they're going to stay. They manufacture custom hats. They plan to grow, obviously, and at our next Planning Commission hearing, we should be going forward with their use permit for a retail showroom, which is a required aspect of having retail in an industrial zone. The other thing that's important to note is of those 30 employees, almost all of them are residents of Watsonville or just around Watsonville. So we're saving those jobs and hopefully creating some new ones. So with that, our recommendation is that the City Council adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a lease with Head and Home Hats Incorporated for 5 years with an option for an additional 5-year for a portion of the building located at 125 Aviation Way. And that's defined in the lease that you all have in your packet. So with that, I'd like to entertain any questions.
Great. Council members, questions? Councilmember Montesino?
Not a question, but how could you say no with that kind of picture?
That's awesome. Yes. Councilmember Dodge? Councilmember Kaufman Gomez?
It's the dog.
This particular comment here that reads a 5-year for a portion of the building located at 125, is this the portion from the first 5 to the second 5? Or is this a possibility of expansion or?
No. It's the lease is for 5 years with an optional for additional 5 years for a portion of the building. The portion of the building is the 15,020 square feet that's defined in the
current lease
Correct.
Option.
Yeah, and there
portion
probably
of
should
the
be a
building.
comma in there.
Okay, just
not
making
sure
sure.
where. Yeah.
Councilmember Dodge?
Now I'll ask a question. So most of the space will be taken up for a manufacturing of the hats, of the products?
Correct. They do all of their manufacturing locally.
And so this would allow for an expansion for additional products than what they're currently able to create at this current time?
I think it's for both additional products and added capacity to what they can deliver and how quickly they can deliver. Right now, they're in what's essentially a barn in Larkin Valley, and I've been over there a number of times. They're stepping all over each other trying to get things done, and this is going to allow them to have a much more efficient assembly.
And you mentioned that the possibility for a showroom will be coming up to the Planning Commission at their, is it an agendized item at the next Planning Commission?
It's not agendized yet, but they're going to apply as soon as the lease is approved, and it'll go on the next available Planning Commission hearing. And the use permit's required by our zoning ordinance for ancillary uses such as retail. So that's why they're going.
I'm excited about this business. I was familiar with this business before, and I know they're going to do wonders to help change my image. And I've spoke to them about it previously. Yes, so I've heard. But is the applicant going to be addressing us this evening?
I'm sorry?
Will the applicant be addressing us this evening?
They are both here, if you'd like to meet them.
I certainly would.
Public input.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for.
Yes. Thank you for sitting through all of our meetings and allowing us to meet you. Yes.
Head probably hurts.
For having us, City Council. We're really excited to be here. I'm Garth Watrous, and this is Gary Watrous. We've been in business 40 years in the community, and excited about this opportunity to grow our business. Happy to answer some questions. If you
Wonderful. Are those hats from the?
Absolutely. Most of what we do is custom.
Great. And people can find you online.
Yes, we have a website.
And order there.
Most of our business is distributors. A large percentage, excuse me, is international. Actually, we're selling a good percentage of our output to China. Kind of nice.
So, yeah, we ship all over the world. We haven't done a lot of marketing locally because we haven't had a location that people actually could come to. So this is the most exciting part, that now we can get back to the community and really promote locally, create hopefully more jobs, and build relationships within the community.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Councilmember Kaufman Gomez?
Now, you currently have about 30 employees.
Correct.
And what is your goal upon the transition of moving in, maybe the first 6 months out?
100.
100? Hey, It's a good number to reach for.
To aim for, yeah.
Big dreams. We've doubled twice in 5 years, and I think that we could continue that. So I could see us having 40 employees by the end of 2015.
Great, and we really encourage all of the locals. Made in Pajaro Valley, Made in Watsonville would be just great to go ahead and be able to promote that. We have quite a few fine products that are grown and manufactured in this area, and to promote our community here will be very great. Hopefully we'll be able to get you on the circuit as well for the holidays that go through that area. For some of the units off of Hanger, all the way across town where Annie Glass is, there's a whole circuit. So hopefully when you're ready to showcase, you'll be included with the rest of them to go ahead and let the locals know.
Hopefully we can be ready this year.
Well, basically, we're counting on the planning committee to get that done. I believe it's December 6th. We are definitely on the rotation for the...
Be pretty close.
Yeah, we're very excited about it.
I think that rotation date is about the second week of December that they're doing the local stores, the local shop local.
The factory sale is December 6th. The Planning Commission meeting's November 18th. And we're excited that they've agreed to participate in the factory sale. Either way,
Great.
we have an off-site location as well.
Great. Glad to hear that. Thank you.
Councilmember Dodge?
Just about your product, and because I was asking questions earlier, is how many different styles what's the variety of the range of hats that you? I mean, I saw a picture of some of the fine lady hats that you made. What is the kind of spectrum? Is it everything? Can you help me? Can you help me?
We got you covered.
Thank you.
That's first and foremost, you are taken care of.
All right.
It's hard to define. We make so many different kinds. Not a lot of any one thing, but just cover the whole gamut, anything with a brim.
All right.
And 90% of what we do uses leather.
Okay.
So we're
leather
primarily, I
mesh.
started as a leather artist, and it's stayed in that genre.
And you have generations of family involved in the business.
Yeah, and it's almost all family business. We've got
3 generations.
my daughter, my wife, his wife. It's crazy.
My kids help with marketing.
That's the way the Dodgers like to do it too.
Yeah.
Councilmember Hurst?
That we have over 200 styles, 6 brands that we
Right.
actually produce.
That's exciting. We're very excited.
I too looked at the website and saw quite a variety of styles, and there's this old saying that if the shoe fits, wear it. Is that true with hats too?
I like to think that, yes.
Yes, you're going to have to come in. We'll fit you.
I'll come in for a fitting.
Yes.
You know, I was here when Cal Tube Lab came into that building, and now we're going to see the Hat Lab come into the building, and we're excited about the potential that you bring to the neighborhood and the employment and the tax revenues, as well as more customers for the airport restaurant.
We're just hoping they're going to live up to expectations, because I'm sure we'll be eating there daily.
Don't outgrow your hat.
All this booming activity in District 3. My
Man,
goodness.
it's happening.
Any other questions? Seeing none, it is an opportunity for public input. I don't know if there's any members of the public wishing to address us on this issue.
I just want to personally say thanks to Kurt and Alan to getting this done, because the truth is, like, we've been working on this nonstop for weeks, really months, but the lease has been weeks, and a lot of us had a lot of sleepless nights. So I do apologize getting this to you guys last minute, but the truth is we worked our butts off on it. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Seeing no other public input, I'll return it to council for discussion or appropriate motion.
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Hurst, and I'll give the second to Councilmember Kaufman Gomez. Any discussion?
Good idea.
I'm excited.
It's wonderful, yes. The Made in Watsonville label that Councilmember Kaufman Gomez mentioned would just be amazing to see put on another quality product.
Another feather on the cap, right?
There you go.
Oh,
It's just,
All these good ones.
we're rolling.
These good one-liners.
It's late.
Too bad we have to go home so soon.
Yes. See no further discussion. We're ready to vote on the motion.
Captain Gomez,
Yes.
Dodge,
Yes.
Hurst,
Yes.
Montesino,
Yes.
Cervantes.
Yes. Welcome to Watsonville. Ecstatic to have you. All right. So moving on. No emergency items added to the agenda. Informational items. I just have one. I won't be here November 18th, so this was my last formal meeting that I'll be facilitating, but I'll be back for the swearing in of the new mayor. So have a great night. Tonight's meeting is adjourned.
Hopefully I'll be back for that too, Mayor.
Just want to, for the whole year, thank you for your your efforts.
Well, we got to make it to the December 9th meeting. You can
Yeah.
do your things then.